Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen O'Venny. You don't know me. Tonight is a Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. Tonight is Tuesday, February 23rd. It is about 7:34 p.m. Sorry, we're a few minutes late. Tonight we have a public hearing and a general meeting on our agenda for new applications we haven't seen before, and then some other cleanup items in the public hearing section. We are here in Town Hall. Jeremy and I are in room 213, and then this is also being conducted via GoToMeeting in a virtual setting, as per the governor's executive orders, whatever it is. So without further ado, we have a quorum tonight. Jennifer Leahy was here prior to the start of our meeting. She has a previous engagement she needs to attend to, but she's going to come back to the meeting later this evening after we get done with the public hearing for the general. Okay. So without further ado, our first item on the agenda is coastal site plan review number 73B as in boy, flood damage prevention application number 61B as in boy, land filling and regrading application number 493, Sam Fuller, 40 Contentment Island Road. Proposal to raise the existing residence and construct a new single-family residence with associated filling and regrading, septic system and stormwater management, and to perform related site development activities within a regulated area. The 1.0 plus or minus acres subject property is on the south side of Contentment Island Road, approximately 600 feet south of its intersection with Contentment Island Road. And is shown on Assessor's Map number 68 as lot number 27 in the R1 zone. So this is an application to knock down a house and rebuild a house. I think the application is being presented by Doug DeVesta
And Sam Fuller.
and Mr. Fuller. I don't see Mr. Fuller.
Yeah, he's
There's Mr. Fuller.
He's there.
How are you?
Good, thanks, guys. So welcome. You are first on the agenda. So Mr. Fuller, the floor is yours. And you can bring in your engineer whenever you want to.
Okay.
Please, welcome.
Were those sound effects just for us? That's
Yeah, they are. So we got those exactly.
That's the fire department across the street from me.
lovely.
Got a few more to go, guys. Sorry.
Doug, maybe you could mute your microphone.
I'll mute it.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all of you for being volunteers in our fair town and for the personal sacrifice you're making, spending your evenings at these planning and zoning hearings for the benefit of all of us. So I get that it's a huge sacrifice, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and also to hear our application. I'm here with my wife, Oksana, and we're also on the phone that are involved in this project is Chris Pagliaro and Danilo Marini from Pagliaro Architects, based here in Darien. On the phone also is Rick Parisi and Rob Osterloff, who are our landscape designers. And Doug DeVesta is our civil engineer. Doug's done the engineering for most of the houses along Contentment Island Road. So he's very, very experienced and has done a number of other houses in town. I grew up in the area. I just want to give you a little background. I grew up in the area. I've lived in the area all my life. I grew up in New Canaan. My family's still there. I moved to Tokenique in Darien 24 years ago and have lived in this current house for 15 years. And our plan is long-term. We plan to stay here indefinitely and only leave horizontally in a stretcher, gripping onto the door frame, trying never to leave. So we really love this place, and we've been working on a plan to make that, update the house. The house was built in 1954, and we originally designed a fairly significant renovation, and actually the house is non-conforming in many different ways, and we were able to get variances to keep those non-conformities and upgrade the house. Unfortunately, in the bidding process and in the, when we were costing things out, we weren't able to do it right and still within the 50% spending limit. required by a non-conforming flood zone type renovation. And it became clear to us that we were putting very close to the same kind of money in and as new construction, and would still end up with a compromised house that was non-conforming both from a zoning setback and bulk requirements standpoint, but also and importantly for flood zone requirements, which are quite significant to this property. So I wanted first to describe what we're talking about in terms of the existing lot. And are we able to give control, Jeremy, so we can present slides? I'd like to give it to Danilo, the architect who's has our exhibits available.
Yeah, Fred, can you do sharing or the screen sharing with whoever Mr. Fuller wants? And thank you, Mr. Fuller, to being for your kind comment.
I'm sorry, who needs screen share?
Danilo, and if I look on my screen, he's right in the middle, right under Doug, diagonally down 2 from Steve.
What's his first name?
Danilo Marini.
Oh, there he is, Danilo Marini. I see him.
Yep.
One moment.
Got it, Fred.
Thank you.
Just for the record, taking minutes, Fred, Jeremy left the room. He has to go to another meeting, but he will be back. He left about, 4 minutes ago.
Okay.
So Jeremy's quite familiar with our application. So if you look at the existing survey, by the way, I also should recognize my neighbor, Marion Castell, who's been my neighbor here for 24 years, or 15 years, I should say. And I think she's also on the line. So hello, Marion. With regard to the property starts along Contentment Island Road, which is actually owned by all of the landowners on either side of Contentment Island Road. This is it's a private road owned by the abutting property owner. So the property line is actually at the center line of the road. The property essentially looks flat when you look at it from the road. But at the house, the grade does step up from elevation 6 to the highest elevation on the lot is roughly elevation 12, which is on the southeast corner of this square here, which is the sunroom. Most of the property is in the AE, and I don't know if you're able to zoom in a little bit on this, Danilo, but most of the property is in the AE flood zone, which requires that new construction be at least at elevation 14. Also, if you look at this dotted line here that Danilo is highlighting, that runs diagonally through that corner room is our sunroom. That line represents the velocity zone line, which requires construction not only to be structurally able to withstand wave action, but also at elevation 16 or higher for the first finished floor. So that gives you a little bit of background with what the site is. So it slopes up from elevation 6 at the road to roughly elevation 12, and the site is about 300 feet deep. The house is also non-conforming in several ways. Danilo can zoom in at the south end of the edge of the plan. You'll see that the house is within the 25-foot setback for almost the whole length of a raised ranch section of the house. It's a 2-story section of the house that's fully inside the setback. In fact, the closest at the south border, the closest we are is 10.5 feet, just 10.5 feet from the property line there. Also, that sunroom that we talked about earlier is just 10.5 feet from what's defined as the rear yard, which should be a 40-foot setback, and we're only 10.5 feet from there. And that's where the property abuts Scott's Cove. Our lot is very attractive and bounded by Scott's Cove to the west and north. And because there's a little bulge, we actually feel like we do have some easterly views over Scott's Cove back toward Contentment Island Road. The the lower garages, which Danilo can point to in this plan, right there, right opposite the oval, is those garages flood frequently, and we'll show you some pictures of the flooding later on in the presentation. And they were installed when the house, one of those garages was installed when the house was built. Another one was put adjacent to it in 1997 when there was a kitchen addition. The house was built in '54, and they actually graded the site down lower into that garage, and they built retaining walls up to get to the front door, which you can see. Danilo will point to them, but you can see several sets of steps which take a person from the driveway at elevation 5.5 all the way up to the house at elevation 13 over this front flagstone patio. We've actually lost 2 cars in those lower garages, and I no longer keep any cars there. In Hurricane Sandy, the elevation of that garage floor is 5.4, and at Hurricane Sandy, as you all may remember, the elevation of the floodwaters was roughly of elevation 11. So now I wanted to, so that gives you a little bit of background of what our site is. And now I want to just discuss what our proposed plan is. So Danilo, can you post the front elevation of our proposed house? While Danilo is looking, there it is. There, that's the view of the proposed house from Contentment Island Road. Danilo, do you have the one with the front door looking from the southeast toward the front door, showing the garages and everything? It's more representative of what the house looks like. That one right there. That's what the new house will look like. Although this looks certainly more dramatic than our current house, this house is only 1 room deep. It's 20 feet deep. We've designed the house so that every room in the house has a water view and takes advantage of the water views. The house is 2 stories along the water to the west and to the north, and then there's an L that has the garage, which is only 1 story with the playroom over the garage that's built into the roof of the garage with dormers. So bringing the element down closer to the road, bringing a lower element into view. The footprint of the new house, Danilo, if you could go, do you mind showing the footprint of the new house versus the old house in that site plan, which shows the blueprint? So in blue here, if you could zoom in there, you can see in the blue is the footprint of the old house, and in red is the footprint of the new house. And interestingly, and you can see we had to move the new house north and east in order to conform with the setbacks and in order to get out of the velocity zone, which was an important part of this design. The new house is about 10% smaller footprint than the current house. The new footprint is 3,580 square feet, and the old footprint was 3,937 square feet. The new house is designed to be about 5,352 square feet, and our old house is 4,659 square feet. So the new house is a little bit bigger, but it's relative to the lot and the neighborhood, it's a relatively modest sized home. The new plan will conform with all of the setbacks, front yard, side yard, rear yard. The new plan will conform with the building height requirements. The height of that new home will be 27 feet above grade, and the regulation has a maximum of 30 feet. Just to give you a feel for the kind of sort of conventional design of the house, it is designed as a sort of a beachy shingly house. There are only 9-foot ceilings on the first floor and 8.5-foot ceilings on the second floor, and a relatively conventional 12-12 pitch roof. And again, it's 27 feet tall versus the allowable 30. All of the mechanical, HVAC, generator, pool equipment, and everything will be above the flood elevation. The house will be designed as a slab on grade, so that there will be no risk of flooding of a crawl space. No basement is allowed in the flood zone. And so we just won't have to worry about that anymore. And we bring the driveway up very gently at only 4 feet for every 100 feet of run. So that's a 4% grade change, which is very, very low. We bring the driveway up to elevation 15. So cars that happen to be parked outside the garage for visitors will be up above the flood elevation as well. So I have another site plan. We'll show you some other photographs of what this site plan will look like later on in the presentation. The proposal is to fill the existing grade to raise the house above the flood elevation. As I said, the driveway slopes up just 4 feet for every 100 feet of run. The house is set back about 220 feet from the road, and we're rising up from elevation 6 to elevation 15. The amount of fill is 5,400 yards. That, I know that sounds like a lot. It's not really. At 15 yards a truck, it's about 360 trips, or at 32 trucks a day, because we'll probably have a number of trucks running. That will be done in 12 business days. We would run the trucks for the fill during regular business hours, during the week when people are less likely to be home. We will, of course, have tracking pads, dust control, and street sweeping to the extent any debris does come off of trucks or any dust comes off of trucks. This is, again, this construction relative to what's been going on in this neighborhood. Virtually every home down at our end of the street has been under construction or redeveloped since I've lived here. We currently have one that's been under construction at what seems like almost 3 years, and is close to 30 million worth of construction. And another one that was 30 million of construction and subsequently had a fire is now being reconstructed. So this neighborhood, our trucks for this fill are going to be relatively modest relative to what we've been experiencing heretofore. And I'm saying this kind of tongue in cheek, but since Amazon started its by the minute delivery, it does seem like the contrast for our trucking of some fill will be relatively modest, even compared to all the Amazon delivery trucks running through the neighborhood frequently. The flood regulations are requiring that the site be lifted. It's required, we don't really have any other choice but to fill in order to conform with the flood regulations. And as I said before, this house is fully conforming, which is a good thing for everybody, the town's ratings and everybody's insurance. So there is a little bit of some more description is appropriate, I should say, for our building height measurement. The zoning code in Darien, as everyone knows on this call, limits building height to 30 feet from grade. And grade can be defined as the area immediately outside the house. But if you're adjusting grade, you're only given credit for a foot of adjustment from that initial measurement. Because this house is in this floodplain, not because we're trying to finesse complying with the building height requirement, but because there is so much fill going in, the average grade is about, and the house is 27 feet tall. The average grade existing is about 2 feet short of where we need to be conforming. So absent having either a flat roof, and we can see this in section. If you zoom in on the part to the left, Danilo will show you this. The lines, you zoom right in, Danilo, so people can see the numbers there. If you look, the lines to the lower garage slab is at elevation 5.3. The existing average grade is 7'8". What we're proposing is that the average grade be considered at 10, because we are going to fill in this area that was excavated for these lower garages, and we'll show where that is in the plan view. So that's roughly 2 feet of fill, 2 feet 4 inches of fill. That makes the house conforming. As you can see, it's a relatively conventional house. And because of the height of the floodplain, which is AE 13, requires construction at elevation 14, we need to have a higher average grade. And theoretically, we could have gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals and taken this decision out of the Planning and Zoning Commission's hands and said, look, we'd like to, because we're in this floodplain and we are required to fill so much to get out of the floodplain, would you allow us a variance because of this unique situation, unique to this lot? Would you allow us a variance on the definition of the free foot above existing grade? And since a subsequent decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission to allow the grading would render that decision unnecessary and moot, what we're proposing is that we really consider this as if it was 2 phases. And since the town requires a grading and an as-built survey of the foundation before they'll give a building permit, that comports beautifully with the average grade being measured from the new grade. We don't need to have the new grade all the way up to the finished grade of 15 to comply. We only need to add 2 feet. And interestingly, that 2 feet necessity is caused by the fact that these lower garages were excavated out when they were installed from the existing grade. And so what we're proposing in this application is that the commission consider that we fill in that hole where those lower garages were excavated out, then take our average grade measurement so that house is a conforming application. But again, emphasis here, this is not a case where we're trying to get a really tall house on a really steep site to conform by manipulating grades. We're building a very conventional, traditional home appropriate for the lot. And the flood requirements are causing us to have to redefine an existing grade that's just 2 feet higher than what the average would be if we took the average grade, including this excavated area from the previous garages. So I hope that's clear as mud, and we can entertain questions on that at the end of the presentation. What our ultimate plan here is to tear down our house, fill in the crawl space that's under the existing house, fill in the area that was excavated for the lower garages, install our new foundation, and then grade around the new foundation, and then as required by the zoning board, but by the zoning regulations now, provide an as-built survey of the new foundation, and then obtain the building permit for the vertical construction above that, and then construct our new home. This grading in this plan has absolutely no impact to the neighbors. In fact, our neighbors support the application. I think in the record I know in the record we've submitted emails and letters from all 3 of our abutting property owners. Interestingly, because we're on Scotts Cove, we only have 3 abutters, and the only place where their grading is adjacent to somebody is at our southern property line. Our neighbors, the Connors, have reviewed the plans extensively and are supportive of the application. We also are going to have no stormwater flowing onto their property. And in fact, we are containing all stormwater that comes down on our property and treating it. Currently, it is untreated and flows directly into the sound. We will be collecting all stormwater and infiltrating it into the ground. As ridiculous as that may seem, since we're right on the sound, that is a requirement in the regulations, and we are providing that infiltration, which is cleaning the stormwater and is a dramatic improvement from what it currently exists today. So there's stormwater quality improved, no flow to neighboring properties. We're also upgrading our septic system, which is circa 1954. We're putting in a fully contemporary septic system. It is fully approved by the health department. And the nice thing about this property is it does have good percolation. So it's a net environmental positive from both a stormwater quality and from a septic management standpoint. And also, it's a net improvement to the town's compliance with FEMA, which helps every townsperson's insurance and helps the town's FEMA rating. We're currently removing a structure that is fully non-conforming with FEMA in at least 2 different flood zone regulations and the velocity regulation. And we're taking the non-conformity and removing it, eliminating it, making it conformity. Another important thing that often comes up is that there will be no blasting. We're not digging down, we're filling up. There will be no hole ramming. Again, I want to emphasize that our neighbors do support our application, which we very much appreciate. Our neighbor to the south will have to do, the only other lot I think that has this almost identical situation is our neighbor to the south, and he will probably have a very similar application when and if that lot is developed. Importantly, we're not affecting anybody negatively. We're improving the value of our property, and we're a net environmental positive. So we look forward to the Commission's review and support, and we're here to respond to any questions. Doug DeVesta is on and will briefly review the engineering aspects of the application. I've probably stolen all his thunder. Before I do that, Danilo has some photographs of the flooding of the lot, which I think is important to show everyone so people get a feel for what we're up against. Danilo, can you just slowly go through those pictures? I'll describe each one. This is an example of, this happens about sometimes up to 3 times a year, sometimes more. We get some form of flooding. Flooding this extensive is a 3x a year type thing, 2 to 3x a year. In Hurricane Sandy, these same garage doors had the water up to just under the windows in these garage doors. Why don't you go to the next photo? And this is looking down the driveway across to Marion Castell's house. You can see that all of our trees are inundated, and Contentment Island Road is fully inundated. In Hurricane Sandy, our mailbox, which is at the end of the driveway just to the left there behind those crabapple trees, our mailbox was fully submerged in Hurricane Sandy. Why don't you go to the next photo? This is our upper garages, and you can see our neighbor's lot is fully flooded. Our upper garages are roughly at elevation 8, and you can see the water is right up to that upper garage level. Danilo, you can go to the next photo. This is looking across to our upper garages. I wanted to show you this because these are the retaining walls that go up to the front door to the right side of this photograph. Again, this is looking east across, it's looking sort of southeast. Go ahead, Danilo. This is at the bottom of the stairs in our kitchen, right behind where I'm sitting right now. I have it perfected to bring, when the tide goes out, I have it perfected down to 41 minutes with the garden hose to rinse all this water out, get the mud off the walls, tip the garbage cans back up, because I've gotten so used to having to do it. But obviously this is not an acceptable situation. Basically substantially devalues the property. This is looking back east again toward Marion Castell. The other thing I want to point out is if you look at Marion's property across the street, her property is that's roughly a 4% slope. It's hard to see this far away, but that's roughly what a 4% slope, which is it's about 4 feet in every 100 feet of elevation change. Go ahead, Danilo, to the next slide, please. I think, did we address them all? I think that's it then. Also importantly, our neighbor to the south, the Hewers, who also sent an email in support of the application, their house is quite high above the road, and the slope up to their driveway there is probably well over 10%. So that gives you a feel for, it may be 15%, gives you a feel for one, what our immediate butter is much higher than us. And so it's not like we're going to stick out above them or anything. And also, it gives you a feel for the different grades relative to us. His driveway is substantially steeper and obviously looks and feels a lot steeper. Our lot will feel essentially level because it's such a gradual slope up. So I think, Doug, if I've left anything for you to say, now's your chance.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Doug DeVesta, professional engineer, represent the applicant. Fred, can I have the?
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to qualify one thing, Sam, and give everybody a little bit of background. Sam Fuller is a regional developer. He knows what he's talking about. You're one of the most applicants to describe more than anybody that we've seen in a long time. But the reason why is because he builds apartment complexes all around Fairfield County. The one question I did have for you, Sam, is you mentioned about the average grade where your proposed grade on that one plan, which is A002, your average, you want to call it at 10 feet. Did you say that at one point in time when they added the additional garages, it was filled in, they excavated out, and now you just filled it back in again?
Correct. That is correct.
So if it was never excavated in 1997, whenever they added those 2 garages down low, and you would be at average grade of 10 anyway, right? Is that what we're talking about?
That is correct. And if you go back, Danilo, can you go back to that cross section, please? That does a good job describing.
Yeah, it's A002.
Yeah, so zoom back into there. So if you see see how the existing grade, that black line slopes up.
Yep.
And that part from the house down, essentially was where because they excavated for that lower garage, you can see the lower garage is at the bottom line, elevation 5.3. They excavated that average down. We tried to show this schematically, but they excavated that down to get to those lower garages at elevation 5.3. And so if you fill that back up, you can see how the proposed average grade kind of, if you look to the right, it definitely, looks fair relative to the existing grade, the black line. Do you see what I'm saying?
I got it. That's good. So you're just, if it did go back to ZBA, you would just go back to say, hey, we want our credit for where it was prior to, whatever the year was, 1997 or so.
Well, it's 1954 when that first lower garage was put in. They just added the second lower garage at the same level.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. That's right. I mean, I think the most important thing, and I'm not going to steal any of Doug DeVesta's thunder either, but if you could just make sure you explain to us all the drainage aspects, because we are changing the grade significantly. If you've designed it the way you usually design stuff, we don't have a problem. But if you can get everybody comfortable with that, I think that's going to answer a lot of questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Give me the screen, Fred. There we go. Okay. So up on the screen here is the overall site plan, a rendering of it, what it looks like. Again, we've got the existing house that Sam described. Around the outside, we've got patios areas. We've got a pool and a spa and a little patio area in the back here. And this is the driveway coming up to the property itself. As Sam said, we are replacing a new septic system, replacing the old system that was built back in the 50s. For a new septic system that's current to the current codes and meets the current health code requirements and meets for a 6-bedroom design, which is approved by the health department. We are providing on the edge of all the terraces, channel drains. The terraces are slopes from the house towards the edge of the patios or terraces to be collected in a channel drain and then collected into our recharger systems or Coltech systems. We're handling the first inch of runoff, which is the requirement for being down along the coast here. Also, we're having catch basins on the driveway that will go into the drainage systems, again, along the edge of the driveway itself here. Any water that's flowing on the ground will, again, sheet flow off towards Scotts Cove, and same thing on the lower portion here. A portion of it, this small green grass area, again, it's a lawn area, sheet flow down towards the neighbor's property, being collected behind the retaining wall, and then discharged out towards the sound. So again, really no water ending out into the neighbor's properties. All the roof leaders will be all tied in, interconnected with the channel drains, and all going into the various detention systems we proposed. Again, we're asking for a waiver for a full drainage study because, again, we're against the coast here per section 880 of the regulations. In terms of erosion control, we're looking to put double row silk fence and hay bales all along the edge of the existing lawn area, which I'm highlighting now with my cursor, and then silk fence along the southern property line and along the road itself, the anti-tracking pad at the entrance to the existing to the property itself. That's really it. And we have a stockpile area down by the road down here again, because we're filling the area here. We're put this topsoil here and then replace the topsoil back on top of the material that's being imported into the property itself. Really, Sam took away most of my thunder. So again, in terms of potential benefits of the property, as Sam mentioned, that again, we have an updated septic system meeting current health codes. We're collecting the water quality volume from any of the impervious surfaces and detaining that area, allow it to infiltrate into the ground. And mostly the property itself is all lawn area now. It will go back to the lawn area again. So again, we're not really changing the type of material going from a wooded area to a lawn area. So again, it's a lawn area now. It will be a lawn area when we're done, and there'll be some landscaping, new landscaping putting in there that will help also with the benefit to the area. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
The only thing I just want to make sure that we're confident in, and thank you, Doug, is that at the bottom of the driveway, I mean, it's simple math. The house is going to be at like elevation 14 for argument's sake, and the road is elevation 6. So water is going to flow downhill towards Contentment Island Road and towards Mrs. Gastel's house. So do we have on the driveway? Do you have catch basins at the bottom so water doesn't quote unquote cross the road?
We don't have anything at the bottom, so we got the last catch basins are right here. The reason is because we have a septic system that's up gradient of the driveway. So we had to be a little careful about where you can put the drainage in terms of health code requirements there. The driveway really will not be curbed, so we'll allow the water to sheet flow off the driveway and going across the lawn area. So again, the driveway. So again, we do have catch basins, but it'll be sheet flowing off the driveway and back into the lawn area where it can infiltrate back into the ground.
So about mid driveway, what's the elevation about mid driveway where that dark line is? Yeah, right there.
Right there.
Yeah. Because it's got to be lower than 14.
It's around 11.
Okay.
Proposed grade 11.
We're we're still going to limit to 5, but it's the water's going to flow towards Scotts Cove to the north and not to the east towards Contentment Island Road.
Correct.
Right. The driveway will be crowned, it will be pitched to the left, to the north, so it'll sheet flow off, off toward the north and sheet flow into the yard area there.
But
And,
you might
you
have
know,
like, you might have Belgian blocks or something like that on the driveway, but there'll be spaces between them or something.
No, I specifically didn't want that. I mean, we want the kind of natural feel. And one, if you do have Belgian blocks, then it does make a funnel, which we didn't want to do.
Okay.
And we're collecting the lion's share of it in catch basins. And we specifically didn't put a trench drain across because we didn't want to deal with it click, 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 click every time somebody comes in the driveway. And so we're pitching the driveway into these catch basins along the edge, which will be depressed areas along the edge. And then for the last little bit, it'll just sheet flow off.
Right.
Got it.
Because this area here is a high point where the septic system is. So this area here is going to sheet flow across here, across the driveway, and then across the lawn area going towards Scotts Cove to the north.
Okay. Does it go below 6 feet at some part of the bottom part of the driveway? Does it go back to 5.5 and then up again, or no?
It does. There's a little trench right there by that juniper where it's quite low there and channels right into Scotts Cove right there.
Right through here.
Yeah.
You got it all covered. One other last question that I have, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the commissioners. I'm just looking at your landscaping plan, for the lack of another plan, because it's easy. Over on the to the left of the driveway, left of the garage, that's where the pool equipment is and the generator is and the condensers are.
Yes.
It's just because it's marked on the landscape, it's marked pools. When I first looked at it, I thought you had 2 pools.
No, that's pool equipment.
Really, so you're really piping the pool equipment from all the way across the house underground from one side of the property to the other?
Yes, you can pipe that distance. Trust me, that was something we looked into specifically. One, I don't want to hear the noise of the condensers or the pool equipment or the generator for that matter. So we put them on the far end of the, both away from our neighbors to the south and on the far end of the house. And they're fully 220 feet from our neighbor, from Marion Castell too. Not even 220 feet from the center line of the road, much further from her house. But it was to get the noise, the house is really going to be enjoyed along the water, and it's to get the noise away from there. And also, if you think about, if you look at this plan, there's really no other place to put it unless you put it in the middle of your view to the water, which is undesirable, obviously.
Great. Okay. I'm good. I'd like to turn it over to the commissioners, see if they have any questions. Larry, you want to go first?
Yeah, nothing. I think this is all great for the neighbors in the town and everything else. I just want to clarify something for the record, because on your on the chart there, you say that you have a gravel driveway with Belgian block curbs. And so if you're telling us so I just want to confirm that that's an error.
That must be an error. The existing driveway is gravel with Belgian block curbs. So maybe, where are you reading that? Because that may be the
literally on the document we're looking at right now. Yeah.
Right there. That's the existing driveway.
That's in light gray.
Right. This is the new driveway.
That's from the survey. They use the survey as the background.
I see it now. Yep, I see it now. Got it.
Okay.
Too many lines. Just.
No, this is a busy plan, but it's got a lot of good info on it for sure.
Yeah, no, it really does. It does. It looks very good. Thank you.
Jen, not Jen, Kara, ladies.
Just
Kara, you
one
want to go
lady.
first?
No, I think this is a really complex and interesting design and plan. And I have to say, your presentation was just very transparent and forthcoming, and I appreciated the transparency and just sort of putting it all out there, and it's a tough location and plan. And my mother was in Sandy on Long Island, so the flooding, really, that was pretty striking to me. And that's a problem that has to be addressed. So I appreciate the thoughtful and very transparent and honest presentation.
Well, thank you.
Jim, Rand?
If you drive further down Contentment Island Road till you get to the gates, inside the gates, there was a house that was, as I recall, demolished and rebuilt. And there was the amount of fill, as I recall, was not as significant as what we're talking about here. But how Contentment Island and all, that's all private roads almost out till 5 Mile River Road, isn't it?
Correct.
I mean, how do you make peace with all the neighbors and owners of the road with the number of trucks you're gonna represent a significant majority of traffic for a month or so?
Well, so first, it does seem like a lot, but the house, there ends up, there's truck traffic and there's traffic, and whether it's a truck, whether it's a big truck or a little truck, it's traffic. And somebody doing $30 million worth of construction, which is what's going on, still going on, by the way, started 3 years ago, versus somebody doing less than $3 million worth of construction, more than, is a tenth the traffic. Literally, we have 30, I counted yesterday, 30 cars outside running down the street with that construction. I think people should be allowed to improve their lot. That this is the only way to improve their lot. He did do quite a bit of trucking. There's a huge amount of stone and a huge amount of lumber. It's a massive, it's $30 million worth of construction. So that involves a lot of equipment and men and people coming in and out. And so, for a period of 12 days, we're going to have intense trucking, but by the time anybody notices it, we will be done. And also, we're building a relatively modest house, so the overall construction period of the whole house is relatively modest. And finally, this is the solution for this lot, so it's not really optional. This is really the only way we can solve this lot, other than just leaving things the way they are.
All right, thanks. I wasn't criticizing the project. I'm just thinking about the logistics of getting it all done. But if you and the owners of the road or roads involved are copacetic, I certainly don't propose to comment any further.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a private road issue, and then he needs to get the private road people to sign off. George, any comments?
A quick question, if I can. I think I missed the answer to this in Doug's presentation, but I'm looking at the southerly boundary, and I'm seeing an elevation of 12 closer toward the house, and then 10 at the property line. So why is there not flow from 12 to 10 on the southerly line and then potentially into the neighbor?
So Doug did answer that. There is a field stone, natural native stone wall. We're going to do it with what we call potatoes, but big stone along the edge of the wall. There'll be roughly a two foot wall along that edge, and the wall will extend slightly above the grade. The grade will pitch down to it, and there'll be a swale with a collection pipe that then discharges to the west to keep any flow off off our neighbor's property.
So there'll be one collection point along that southerly boundary?
Imagine it as a French drain. There'll be a gravel on top of a perforated pipe, then discharging west.
Okay, good. I was sure you covered it, but I'm sorry I missed it. Thanks.
No problem.
That's fine. I think we got all the commissioners. I
understand it.
There's
I understand what you're doing.
Steve, there's one thing. Marion has asked that I ask the commission for permission to remove that 12-inch juniper on the north edge of our property along the water. We showed it as remaining in place. It's right there, Doug circling it. That improves the view, not only Marion's view, but anybody traveling north on Contentment Island Road, traveling north on Contentment Island Road. That improves their view too. I think it's a nice thing to do for the neighbors. It is along the edge of the water, and we were trying to be sensitive environmentally and thought the commission might as well. But it certainly, I don't think, harm the environment if we remove the tree, and it would make my neighbor Marion happy, and that's always a goal to make our neighbors happy. So, and I think our other neighbors to the south would enjoy it too. When they're driving up the road, they'll have a quicker view of Scotts Cove. So if the commission's willing, we would like to have that be part of the plan, that we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Is there a picture of the, I know there's some photos of the flooding that you could actually see some of the landscaping. Is there?
Yes, Danilo, if you go back to that photo from the east, I can point to that tree. It's quite a bushy juniper, but
I know junipers. I grew up on, like, trust me. I used to play with those, like.
Danilo will find it.
No, I know.
Yeah, I'm okay. Do you want to see the tree, Kara, or do you care?
If they have a picture of it, I would. Yeah, I just don't see how big it is.
No, it's one to the left, and that's it right there. There it is, right there.
Oh yeah. That's the neighbor's
Christmas
one.
tree.
Yeah, it's kind of a big, fat, long-limbed jobber, but happy to our neighbors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There's a tree that's depicted on your landscaping plan, Fred. I mean, I'm sorry,
It's
Sam.
depicted as staying.
Yeah.
It's depicted as staying, and rather than being removed. So
Yeah, that's fine. You could. It's just we're not going to hold you to that on the record, bro. To that.
Okay.
Text before it gets done.
Okay.
All
right.
I think we got all the commissioners. And can I open up to the public? Right? Okay. Would anybody in the public like to speak to this application? And just for the record, Mrs. Castell, I know you're here. I see you there. Thank you. We did receive your email this morning, and it already is in the record that you sent to Jeremy Ginsburg. So we don't have to, read that again. But anyone like to speak to this application, please unmute yourself or raise your hand, and Fred will recognize you. I think we're good. Okay. And let me say, one other thing, 2 other items. We did receive, and Jeremy and Fred, you guys are doing a great job with this back and forth between Darren Ostefine and the engineers, because he sends a letter, then Doug DeVesta responds to everything. Just for the record, Darren Ostefine sent in an email Thursday, February 12th, upon a review of Doug DeVesta's civil engineering information. Everything is already noted as satisfactory, and Mr. Ostefine signed off on it. The only thing I want to make sure is, with regards to the as-built survey at the end, does this house need one of those elevation surveys? There's no smart fence, right? It's not a flood zone.
It's at, or it's going to be, the space would be 1 foot above.
Right.
It's not going to have a crawl space. It's not going to have a basement. Many times people get elevation certificates. I think FEMA wants us to require those so that they are assured that everything is A-OK. Because normally we would get a survey showing the horizontal, that it meets all the setbacks.
Right.
But here the commission's going to require an elevation certificate as part of the as.
Okay, so did you hear that, Doug and Mr. Fuller?
yeah, no problem.
The last query is an elevation certificate, just to show that it's out of the flood zone to keep.
Correct. Correct.
Great.
No
Darren
problem.
Ostefine, I don't think he put that in his item number 13. Okay, so with that said,
I'd like to speak a moment. Marion Castell.
sure, go right ahead, Mrs. Castell, please.
I wanted to compliment Sam Fuller's presentation. I think it was an excellent one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marion.
Okay, I think with that said, I would entertain a motion to close this hearing. It's Karen Gately made the motion. I'm looking for a second. Jim Rand seconded. All in favor? Thank you. We'll probably deliberate the application, in what, a couple of weeks?
Yep.
Deliberate an application in a couple of weeks and we'll get you an answer right after that. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Doug. And thank you, Danilo.
Thank you, Dave.
We
Well-
really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Anytime. And stick around, Doug. You're back up soon. The next item on our agenda is coastal site plan review number 106A is an Apple, flood damage prevention application number 96A is an Apple, Michael and Nancy Herling, trustees, 89 5 Mile River Road. Proposal to renovate an existing single-family residence and add a second floor onto the structure, rebuild the deck and connect the town sanitary sewer system, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 0.75 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the east side of 5 Mile River Road, approximately 1,250 feet south of its intersection with Berry Lane, and is shown on assessor's map number 66 as lot number 20A in the R1 half zone. And just for the record, Jeremy came back to the meeting at, what did we say, 7:53? 7:53. So Mr. Ginsburg is back in the meeting. Tonight, the house being renovated. I think we have Mr. Masson or Attorney Masson representing the, there he is, got it, sorry, representing the applicant. Jeremy, what do we got?
The only thing I want to add is Westcog sent an email dated January 4th saying that the proposal is of local interest and with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it's not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities, and the regional staff is making no comment. The commission got your packets, comments from the 5 Mile River Commission. The health department says certification of septic system abandonment will be submitted, must be submitted when they abandon the septic system and tie into the public sewer system or the project. Attorney Maslin's here to talk about the additions and alterations to the house and how the new house will comply with the flood regulations. There's not a lot of new impervious surface. The house is on the 5 Mile River. So it's a coastal site plan review and flood damage prevention application.
And just for the record, Jeremy's TV monitor or computer screen is not working. He's sitting next to me, but you can't see his smiling face. Okay, here we go. With that said, Mr. Masson, there you are. Your new background. You're in Manhattan now.
I don't
Mr.
know
Masson,
if
right
I
ahead,
can.
sir.
I don't know if I can make as good a presentation as Sam Fuller, though, but I'll give it a try.
He
For the record,
used an
Robert
hour, so
Masson.
hopefully you don't
I'm
need
sorry?
an hour. He used an hour, so hopefully you don't need an hour.
No, it's up to you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Robert Maslin representing the owners and applicants who are Mary and Nancy Herling as trustees. I saw their names on one of the little squares here. I think they're still with us. Jacek Bigazinski is also here, project architect. And what I thought I would do is just kind of give you a quick project overview and show you some photographs of the site, elevations, and I have the floor plans, and we'll kind of wrap up pretty quickly. The overview is pretty much what's in the application. The change, well, basically, it's construction of a 1,300 square foot second floor addition above the existing, there should be 1.5 story building within the existing footprint. The building coverage is actually going to reduce by about 0.1% because HVAC units are going away. There's an existing deck that'll be replaced with a new deck in the same location. Convert to geothermal energy, which is the thing to do these days, and this will result in removal of HVAC units, which are mounted on the ground at this point. Some minor landscape features, which I'll show you in the plans. And part of the project involves construction of a lateral sewer connection. There's a main sewer line in 5 Mile River Road, and this property is not connected yet. And that'll be part of the project. And I'll talk about this replacement deck in the restricted area when I get to the maps. I just put these aerial photographs in here. This is the site right in the center here, outlined in the blue line. To the west is Darien, 5 Mile River Road, and the residential areas over there. And then you look across the river and it's Rowayton Avenue with slips and docks and commercial buildings right up against the shoreline with very little, if any, landscaping. The next photograph is a close-up. You can see this site is entirely developed. Driveway coming off 5 Mile River Road to this rear lot. The entire lot is either driveway surface, lawn, or building. There is some additional landscaping along the house, a couple of trees and some bushes along the seawall. The existing zoning location survey, I'm going to try to zoom in on this. Here we go. All right. This is the existing footprint, the existing deck. This little crosshatched area is something that started out as a restricted area for the benefit of number 91 5 Mile River Road, and it was intended to protect a view over to the east. 1995, the commission approved the construction of a deck, which basically, in light of the restrictive covenant, rendered what's left of the restrictive covenant now pretty much obsolete because it no longer serves its originally intended purpose. Our plan is to just replace the deck. The next slide is, I'll also blow this up. The proposed conditions, this gray area is just nothing more than the building footprint in light of setbacks along the north and along the seawall, and along here was that original kind of restricted area. There's another restricted area between the house on 89 and the house on 91 for the benefit of number 87 5 Mile River Road, which is up here. That restricted area is not going to be affected by this project. The only work that's being proposed there is to abandon the septic system, connect the sewer, and repave the driveway, which is not constructing a building or not in any way impairing that restricted area. There's an existing dock off the east end in the river. Recently, a shared dock agreement was entered into between the Herlings and the owners of the current owner of the lot at number 91, so that there's now a pedestrian easement that runs along here over to the dock, and they split the use of the dock. The surface elevations here, roughly 10 feet along the western part of the buildable area, and it slopes down to about 5 feet along in the eastern area along the seawall. The river actually makes a turn here and comes up. You'll see in a photograph that the water comes right up to the seawall here. So this property is bounded on two sides by 5 Mile River. Photo tour. This is a photograph looking from the south, looking basically as if you were looking upstream, but through the house. The deck and this little retaining wall planted area is shown in the foreground, and obviously the existing house in the background. And then we start moving around. This is the dock that we saw on the survey, and you'll see there's a seawall that you can begin to see behind the dock. You'll see this slope going down from west to east with a couple of trees and some bushes along the house. This is the westerly wall of the house, as if you're looking from the common boundary with 91, 5 Mile River Road, looking toward the house. The garage is over toward the left side of the photograph. It's a little dark, but that's the way the lighting one was when the picture was taken. This is the garage. Main entrance is over here to the center of the picture. And you'll see the existing asphalt driveway. Now this is looking out downstream. This long dock belongs to the Rands, who are next door. It's Mr. and, well, unfortunately, the late Sandy Rand and his wife, I think, is still there. But you see the property is an existing lawn with some trees and a bush over here to the left along the house. This is from that south corner. This is the Rand dock, and we're again looking downstream. Now this is a view over toward Rowayton and the commercial buildings and multifamily buildings along that shoreline, and of course the existing Herling dock. Just another view of the same dock, but you begin to see what I'll show you in the next few pictures. This is what the seawall looks like along the eastern shore, I'm sorry, the eastern boundary, western shore of the 5 Mile River. This seawall runs east and west. The Rand house is here. Number 91 is back over here, and you'll see a lawn right up to the seawall. This is looking upstream, similar configuration, existing seawall, lawn right up to the seawall. And then this is from the dock looking at the northerly part of the seawall. Tidal grass is growing seaward of the seawall, and you have some bushes along in here in this gravel area inside the seawall. These bushes will be kept here. They're going to be, I guess, beefed up. I'll show you what it looks like on the other side. This is at the northern end of the property looking back, and those same bushes are going to spring up along this section of the gravel area. So there will be a little bit of an increase in the vegetation, and obviously and with a property like this, all you really want to do with landscaping is make it look nice and keep it well. Okay, existing and proposed elevations. This is the existing west elevation, garage over here on the left. That will change to this. Garage doors replaced, and then the second floor is going to be expanded horizontally, and that is what the elevation would look like. Next one is the right side or the south elevation. Again, existing south elevation here, and then we move over to the proposed elevation. Again, the second floor is expanded horizontally, but there's no increase in the height here. It's going to remain a two-story building. Next, we have the west elevation, which is existing over here. This is from the seawall looking to the west. The deck is over here on the left to try to orient you a bit. This door leads into the garage. And again, showing the addition up on the second floor. And the north elevation, which is, blow this one up too. Front door, side view of the garage, and the addition is going to end up looking like this. I have floor plans. Yasa can go through those if you like, but this is a good plan to show you some of the outside features. Starting over here with the new deck. These are just flagstone steps to a new a stone patio, and then steps along the rear of the house to another. This is like a kind of a step-up area with an outdoor shower, a landing outside the door. This is going to be removed because we're going to geothermal, and the mechanical and air handles are all going to be up in the attic, I believe. And Yasi can correct me if I'm incorrect. All right. And those are the floor plans. And then I have comments here. We did receive the letter from the 5 Mile River Commission. It's a page and a half. I think, having read it, I think the only real question they had was about landscaping. I've shown you photographs of the landscaping. It's going to be increased a bit, but it's well landscaped today, and it'll be kept up through this project. Again, there's no earthwork going on along the water because this is an addition to the second floor of an existing house without any expansion in the footprint. DPW and Darren's comments, there's no change in the building or driveway area or the impervious areas. As I mentioned, there's a 0.1% reduction in building coverage, and that's because the equipment is being removed. I guess we have to ask for a waiver under Section 888 because we're not adding 1,000 square feet of impervious. The impervious is going to remain the same, and we're on the water, so there's really no need for stormwater management. And then, of course, we'll provide an as-built survey. The Herlings already have an elevation certificate, and I don't believe that would change as a result of this project because elevation certificates focus on the lowest floor elevation, and there won't be any change there. The health department, Jeremy mentioned, and certifying a proper abandonment of a septic system is typical. No material comments from WestCog. I don't think Jeremy received any response at all from DEP. We've submitted 3 letters from owners of the abutting properties at 87, 91, and 93. 87 is the abutting property on 5 Mile River Road to the north or upstream. 91, 5 Mile River Road is the property between this project at 89 and 5 Mile River Road, and 93 is the land property actually to the south of number 91. And I think the only thing I didn't mention is the flood zone, so let me just go back and I'll show you what they are really quickly. Let's use this one. Okay, there is a V zone, VE, I think it's elevation 15, that runs up to this broken line, comes onto the property, goes around the corner, and then comes up a few feet into the lawn area. But the existing house deck and all of the other work is outside of the V area. Once you get past the V area, it's AE elevation 13 for basically the rest of the buildable part of the property. Once you get up here to this line, you go to flood zone X, which is not a hazard zone. The new construction is all second floor. It's way above the base flood elevation. And the existing elevation, as I understand it, is it's above 13. It's about 13.7, depending on which sill elevation you look at on the survey. It's not the entire 1 foot, but at least it's over the base flood elevation itself. So that covers the flood zones. And
Bob, can I interrupt you on
now
one
I
second?
have, I'm done, so you're not interrupting.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out the flood stuff. I mean, it looks like this house is a little bit similar to Roten Bay. On Yasik's page 16, A16 in your packet,
Um,
and then page A17, the front of the house or the garages are in the flood zone. So this doesn't have to be lifted out of the flood zone if we're doing a significant addition?
well, let me see.
It's
Are you
Yasik's on
looking at a floor
A3.
plan? Are you looking at this?
A3, no, it's Yasik's A3. Yes. In your packet, you call it A16. It's a
Oh, I see it.
cross-section of the
Hey,
flood
I
zone.
got it. Hold on. No, I missed your reference.
It's your reference. I like your references, man. I'm giving you a compliment.
Yeah, I know, but when I put them onto the PowerPoint, the A references go away.
So the whole house is in a flood zone.
Hold on.
We lifted 15
Okay,
houses.
it's this one. It's this one.
Correct. Now it was just A3. I have
It's,
A3.
it's, the architect calls it A3.
Yep.
My little blue thing in the middle of the bottom of the page is A16. You're correct.
Correct. You're spot on.
Okay.
The
And
whole
your
house,
question?
you're in the flood zone.
Correct.
The bottom of the house is in the flood zone. So my question is relative to what we did in the Roten Bay. If you're doing a significant addition, don't you have to lift it out of the flood zone to get to satisfy FEMA?
Only if you exceed 50%.
Right? And you've done the calculation, Bob?
Yes, the tax assessor, the field card shows a market value of the house, just the house, at $1,137,120. And Yasik is here.
Wait.
Yep.
How much is the land? It's house only. You're saying a 1.5 story house is assessed at $1 million.
What's the
It's,
implied market?
no, he calls it market value.
So it's $1,370,000. Got it. And of the $1,370,000, what's the house? What's the dirt?
It's $1,137,000
Okay.
for the house. And Yasik has the numbers for the cost of the work.
And what did Yasik say is the cost of putting a whole second story on that house?
Yasik,
$411,000.
hold on.
You
How
can
much?
bring up the
Oh,
estimate.
okay, go ahead.
I couldn't hear what he said.
Okay.
So the cost of adding the second floor, which is basically extending the second floor, which is already there. It's really extending it mainly over the garage. That's the major addition. And it's only the part that we're going to extend. You know, there is a part of the second floor which is already there. We're only
What's the number?
increasing mainly over the garage.
How much?
And it sort of connecting to the rest of the house. There were a couple of bedrooms upstairs there on the second floor. The cost
What's the
of
number?
addition of the second floor is $411,000.
Come on. You'll give us like receipts and invoices if that's all it's gonna cost?
Well, no, it's going to be on this building permit.
Well, exactly. I mean, come on.
I mean, that's not a P and Z. It's not a P and Z
Right,
issue per
but
se.
that's part of the building permit. What Dave Keating's got to do, Bob, and we talked about this earlier today, is when you come in with the zoning and building permit, Yasik knows this as well, that's got to comply with the flood regulations because FEMA watches us and they audit us and they make sure we do it properly. So we have to get the entire project less than 50%. So we got to make sure it all works, Bob and Yasik, and you know that.
Oh, we know. Yasik talked to the contractor and got these numbers.
And we can bring always, the actual estimates, which will prove and show what the cost of addition is. If you take what Pete...
I'm not going to argue with you tonight.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not going to argue with you tonight. I'm sure if the commission approves this, one of the requirements will be providing the evidence that it all complies.
Of course, we have that.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
to Jeremy, Fred, or whoever? So, right, we just had an application previously where they discussed how their project with the FEMA regulations impacts and improves the town's FEMA rating. So do individual projects that may or may not comply affect the entire town's FEMA rating?
It's a good question, Kara. I'm not necessarily sure what they do. In about the old days, 20 years ago, FEMA would have what they call biennial visits with staff. And they would come in and sit in the room Steve and I are in right now, and they would ask to review every single flood permit over a 2-year period, every ZBA variance relative to flooding for a 2-year period, and then basically quiz Mr. Keating and myself. Why are certain things being approved? Why wouldn't you make them lift the house? They scrutinize us up and down, and we'd sit in this room under bright lights for literally 3 or 4 hours. It was uncomfortable because, they're here scrutinizing everything. We have to scrutinize hundreds of applications, but they just looked at the flood applications. So certainly they will look, and when they come in and audit us, they will look at projects like this one and the other one you just saw and make sure that everything is, they want elevation certificates. We did not always require them, but we told FEMA that because what they threatened to do is pull the flood program from the town of Darien if we don't require them. So even though Bob is saying we don't need one because we're not changing the first floor, I think the commission should require one, because if not, I will be in this room with FEMA for hours explaining why it wasn't required. And I'm not going to say because Bob Maslin didn't want one.
Well, they're not
It's
going
not
to
a legitimate answer for FEMA.
Exactly. And does that impact other neighbors adversely, or the town, or potentially if the town is viewed as not requiring things that FEMA expects, or sort of this notion, right, in terms of the insurance issue of if we're not a town that's considered compliant, does that impact other people's ability to obtain insurance in flood zones? And that may not be the answer, but
in a case like this, FEMA will ask us, hey, they're getting close to the 50% number. Why didn't you make them lift the house and bring everything up to code? And our response was because they didn't hit 50%. So they will ask for the backup information, the cost estimates, etc. And they will emphasize to us that in Darien, the regulation is over a 3-year period. So if they finish this construction later this year and a big flood comes through, they can only finish that amount that Gossick and Bob are leaving them with. If they then cannot repair the house, they would need a variance. FEMA discourages the granting of those variances. So what we encourage people to do is leave themselves a little money, because as Mr. Fuller just explained, some flooding can be predicted, some cannot. And it's no doubt this is in the flood zone and will get flooded eventually.
Right, so if I may interrupt you for a second. So first of all, the first floor of the existing house is at elevation 14.3. We are compliant with the flat.
But how did it address any of the questions I was asking? I was asking specific questions about FEMA and how FEMA would view the town and other neighbors and residents of the town, not the first floor elevation of the home.
First floor compliance?
Right, did you get that answer, Kara, from Jeremy, though?
No, that was helpful, but I'm really concerned about that because I've said this in other applications, when we just view property by property and don't think about the unintended consequences or adverse impacts on I think it's important, especially when we're thinking about things where flooding and federal regulators and FEMA is concerned, especially when we just saw an application where there was flooding, and it needs to be taken seriously, in my opinion. But it did answer. we have to look into
So I have a
further.
question. So I have a question, because I think I just heard it said, it's in AE 13, which means it needs to be 1 foot over at 14. And did I just hear it's at 14.2? So that would mean that the FEMA conversation doesn't matter. They're in compliance already. They don't need to lift.
Well, that's
Is
exactly
that
right.
correct?
Yasik might have misspoken there. I'm looking at the survey and it shows a door sill elevation of 13.6 or something like that. Now, what I want to mention though, nobody's mentioned yet, the FEMA requirement is above the base flood elevation. FEMA recommends requiring going 1 foot above that, but the 1 foot is just a recommendation on FEMA's part. Many towns, including Darien and other towns in this area, do require under the zoning regs the additional foot, but that additional foot is not a mandatory elevation as far as the FEMA regulations are concerned.
It's local.
As of today.
So
as
this
of
floor
now.
elevation is above the base flood elevation, and FEMA should not have an issue with it. The only issue is the extra foot that the Darien regulations require.
Right, but,
Right, our Darien regulations are higher than FEMA.
That's right.
and,
Right, so I don't
But
care.
Jeremy's talking about
us first.
but
Jeremy's talking about FEMA coming in and basically reviewing
but they
flood
do.
applications.
They do. There's no
And
doubt
if
about
they
it.
look at this, I would think they would look at it under their own regulations and see if there's there are instances where the town allows people new construction that doesn't comply with the FEMA regulations. This is an existing building that's already above the base flood elevation. The
Bob, you
first
know,
finished floor is above the base flood elevation,
just look at
which
new.
does comply with the FEMA requirements.
If you think FEMA just looks like new constructions, that's just not the case.
Is what? I'm sorry, I didn't
But I
hear
don't
you.
think that's what he's saying there. I think he's pointing out FEMA's line is 13 feet. This building is at 13 feet 6 inches. Darien's line is at 14 feet.
That's
So it's a
correct.
Darien issue to say, how much do we care about those 6 inches?
To think that this could not potentially, I don't know. I mean, it's no point predicting what FEMA might do, but I think as a town, we need to consider flooding and these issues seriously. My issue, and not be cute about
We
it.
do, we do.
Wait, hold on a second,
But-
hold on, time out.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Let's just figure this out for a second, and then we're gonna move on to the next thing. Right, we know it's in the whole house is inside the flood zone AE 13, according to the survey from Mark Lebo that's dated December 9th, 2020. Okay, we got that. He's got the same thing on August 31st, 2020. Now, when you flip to PB Architects plans, which you have up on the screen, which is A13, the door is 100% at elevation 13. It says elevation 13.6 to the subfloor. So I don't know where 14 came from, but Yasik quoted, and I like Yasik and I respect Yasik, but the garage is obviously inside the flood zone.
The garage, yes, not the living space.
Okay, so
I
it goes
don't
right.
think garages have to be above the flood zone. It's
No,
just
you
the
don't.
living space.
You're 100% correct, because there's plenty of those in the bay. I got it. The house is below. But now your line, Yasik, on your plan is going right through that one door. So you're saying that the house is 13.6? Is that what that means? To the subfloor?
Correct.
You're on the left of that plane?
That's a mudroom between the garage and the first floor. There is a step. That area is actually a step down, where it's existing. It's basically a mudroom there.
Okay.
If you look at the plan, Bob, if you can move to the plan, it will explain
I'm
what's going
staring at
on
the plan,
there.
yeah. Bob's in the wrong page.
Can't control the screen, so I
Which,
can't.
which, which page you looking for?
Look at
Look
the,
at Yasik's PB Architects A3. Exterior elevation.
Try this.
Bingo. You had it.
That one or
That's A5. A5 showed
five?
up.
Okay.
I'd rather have A3 if you have A3, but
Oh.
you're an A5. A4, A3,
There's
bingo.
three.
Zoom in tight if you can on the left-hand side of the screen. Right, and then shift it over a little bit so that the stairs going into the kitchen or whatever that staircase is.
Over here?
You're right. I mean, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see where it says,
The subfloor, top of subfloor, 13.6.
right, the that dotted line that he's got there, which is, I mean, no offense, Yasik's not a surveyor, but it goes right through this that staircase, on the upper staircase. So to satisfy Darien's regulation, which is 14 feet, and to satisfy, and the flood, and the flood vents and the flood elevation, we just have to make sure the thing complies.
Yeah, and it, well,
So
We're talking about four
Bob,
tenths of a foot.
let Yasik explain to it. It's his plan.
well,
okay.
let's go to the first floor plan. We're not changing that. That's an existing condition right there. That's a mudroom that connects the garage to the house.
Right, but
If you look
there's
at the floor plan, you will
Yes.
see that, again, we're not touching this. This is an existing condition right there. There is part of the house which connects between the garage and the first floor, which is well, I guess was a connector, and it's at a lower elevation than the rest of the house. The first floor is at elevation 13.6.
okay, so which is that window, see that little staircase there? Top of the staircase, there's a window right there. Is that a kitchen or a bedroom? What's that behind that window?
That's,
Little
again,
red
that's
dot on the window, please, Bob.
Would it, you want the,
Could
would
you
a floor
go
plan be-
to the first floor plan?
okay.
I just wanted the window.
Do you want me to help here? This is Mike Herling.
Okay,
Sure, it's your
all right.
house.
So you see those steps?
What's your question?
We're
So
just
when
trying to
you're
make sure it
coming from the
complies.
garage,
Yeah, so
from the garage, you
if you're
step
looking,
out.
sorry, if you're looking at the door, well, now I can't tell what you're looking at.
Okay, here's the main entrance right here.
Yeah, so the doorway to the west of that is a doorway that walks into the mudroom.
Yes.
You step
That's
up.
at a lower
steps.
elevation. That is at a lower elevation.
I understand that, yes.
Right?
You step up 2 steps into the rest of the house,
Correct.
which is the kitchen. There's no, it's
And
a
that
mud.
elevation is 13.6. It's marked on the plan. If you look at the entry foyer, the living room, that's all at the same elevation, 13.6.
Right. Just as a point of clarification, the 14-foot issue is relevant if we exceed the 50% on the expansion, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and we're not, right?
Right.
But we need to make sure you do, Mr. Herling. That's very important.
No, I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. And fully appreciate that. And we've consulted with Bob Calvi and Yasik about this extensively. And they've assured us that we are well within the 50%.
We have estimates that can prove that.
Okay.
Now
That's right.
going back to, I just want to mention one thing, because, you know, the
I just
40
can't-
Contentment Island Road, which I was able to listen to because it was right before our application, they are filling 9 feet, which is basically a whole floor. If we were to do this here and fill in 9 feet and raise the house by 9 feet and do what they were proposing, what do you think will happen to the houses which are behind?
We're not going to do that. So
Yeah,
Well,
well,
not
yeah,
allowed.
it's Yasik.
Just would make
Just keep it to the application, please.
Ridiculous.
All right.
all I guess the point that I'd like to make, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness with which you're approaching this, because this is really important. And, you know, we've lived on 5 Mile River for the last 26 years. We just bought this house, and we're trying to renovate the house to be the house we'll live in the rest of our lives. And so we're very sensitive to the issues related to the coastal area. And our understanding is that the expansion that we're doing to this house will be well below 50% of the assessed value of the house. And we understand that that's a critical component, and we will manage the project to that. We are also doing a lot of things that will benefit the area. The neighbors are fully supportive of this, and you know, I think, well, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that the house will be very, very environmentally conscious as a result of all the work that we'll be doing, and I hope that would be considered as well.
That's it, sir. I appreciate it. And just as a matter of course, I mean, I've worked on projects on the commercial side in my place of business. The thing you can't do, for argument's sake, because there's your assessed value, for argument's sake, is $1 million, make the numbers easy, $1.2 million. So if your renovation is $601,000, you're over the 50% rule, right?
Understood.
If you do $400,000 today, and then 2 years from now, you do another $250,000, it's a 3-year look back. So you exceeded, then you're outside of the FEMA regulations. Just as long as you know that, and you were advised by your council and your people, you're fine. But when the building permit comes in, we have to
and
make
we
sure that's right.
appreciate that very much. The one thing I can tell you is, again, having lived next door to this house for 26 years, we know what it flooded to during Sandy. It's not to say that it can't flood higher another time. There's never been water in the garage even. There's certainly never been water in the crawl space, and there's never been water in the house, obviously. We do not intend to do any further renovation to this house after we do this renovation. Believe me, it's as much work at this stage of my life. This is as much work as I want to do on a house. But I appreciate being alerted to that. Bob had alerted us to that, and so we're very sensitive to that point.
It's on a commercial deal. We tried doing that for somebody else, and they came back and said, "Hey, it's a 3-year look back, so we can't do 400,000 this year, then 250 next year, because you're going to get caught." And the reason why it's not our issue, the reason why FEMA does it is because if something goes sideways, they're the ones that are paying you the money. And if you're in violation, you just flooded your own house, which is a $2 million investment, and you're not covered by insurance. So it's your risk. It's not ours. We're just
I wish it was a $2 million investment.
I hear you there.
You can get insurance for that. Insured
That's right.
over the value of the house to cover that exact situation.
Which we do have. We've got with Chubb, we have
That's fine.
flood.
Kara?
Yeah, but Steve, you and I are from Long Island, and there are areas that if there's non-compliance, and I think Steve and I know a lot of areas that these issues are not taken seriously, it leads to tremendous problems. And so I'm glad the applicant has, spoken about that he's concerned about it and understands the importance of these issues. And I really do appreciate that. It's more than just the property owner that can potentially be affected. Blighted homes, things do happen to areas and towns when these issues are not taken seriously. And we have more than a zoning responsibility. We have a planning responsibility and preservation of coastal resources. And these issues is part of our remit. So I appreciate the applicant and Bob and everybody, sort of addressing these concerns, because I think they are important, and I appreciate everybody sort of taking them seriously.
We do. Believe me, we're waterfront property owners.
I can tell that.
Here and up in Block Island as well, and we've had to deal with coastal area management issues there. We've towed the line in every respect with any work we've done on our property up there. I think there's some people on the commission who know me. They know that I've been a lawyer in the community for 40 years. I take my legal and ethical responsibilities very seriously, and I'm not I don't push boundaries, so I'm not going to push boundaries here.
No, I just stressing the issue. That's all. Yeah.
I just have a question. So, just because at the 50% mark, it's amazing that you're able to stay within that, just as someone who's in the industry and also done renovation on our own house. So that number seems interesting, but why didn't you decide to just bring the house to an elevation? Like, why didn't you decide to elevate the house? I mean, that is, I guess, where I'm confused.
If we had to elevate the house, we would, to state it simply, but it's the elevating the house there's a ripple effect to elevating the house to the exterior treatments of the house, entryways, patios, the neighbors, in terms of their sight lines, and it makes it less appealing, frankly, from an aesthetic point of view, because if you look at the stairways into the front door, to the patio, to the mudroom, etc., and garage into the house, all those would have to be modified significantly if one were to elevate the house. So since look, I trust Bob Calvi. I've known Bob Calvi for a long, long time. When he tells me that he can do the expansion of this house at that price, and Jacek, you can speak to this because you've spoken to Bob more than I have about this. I believe him. And if you think about it, Jacek, the square footage we're talking about is 1,200 square foot addition, roughly.
Yes, correct.
So that's approximately $350 a square foot. The reality is we have our materials costs are probably lower than most people's material costs. And that does help us in terms of doing that construction at that price point.
And by the way, just to add to that, when building department, when they're issuing a permit, this comes up very often as a question on what is the value of construction. The building department is using a $220 a square foot number. So if that was the case, our addition would be $264,000. But obviously we're doing more work. And I also, the last thing I want to point out, because that one of the main reasons that we decided not to lift the house had to do with the stairs, but the main reason was really preserving the views for the neighbors directly behind this house. If we were to raise this house by, say, 6 feet, I think they would lose most of the view. And there's a house directly behind this one, which will be affected, and also number 91. So those are the views, and there, I think, in terms of the value, property values and protecting those, that's a very important consideration. So we were trying to be very minimalistic in our approach, do as little as possible. Just the bare minimum to get a little bit more square footage. The house, the ridge line does not rise at all. It all has been designed in such way that we would not affect anybody's view lines and views, which are the most important part in living on the water. And so that was really the major consideration.
Got it. All right, let's move on to a couple other items. I'm looking at Darren Ostefine's letter, either Bob or the applicant or Jacek. There's some things on here that he mentioned. One is the waiver of 880. And then if we roll that into the letter that came from the 5 Mile River Commission, are you doing any of their requests, which is specifically on page 2, the last paragraph? The applicant's project also represents very little cost to add suitable landscaping between the residents and assured to mitigate volume and quality, service run across the property into the river. That relates to the waiver of 880. So the commission, the 5 Mile River Commission is asking to do it. You're not, and I don't know if you are doing it or not, then you're asking for a waiver of 880. And their last sentence is, this application ensures that the applicant's landscape design provides optimal filtration and helps to reduce runoff, thereby mitigating effects of the project on the river. Given the timing of the hearing, the 5 Mile River requests that the Planning and Zoning Commission carefully review this aspect of the application to ensure it. So how are we answering that question?
I'm not sure what, are you reading from the 5 Mile River
Yes.
Commission letter or
Yes.
from Darren's comments?
They're related. The 5 Mile Commission letter is asking you to do something about water filtration. Then you have to ask for a permission of 880, which is to waive it, but the 5 Mile Commission River is telling you to do it anyway. So that's not waiving it.
So if you want to, we do not have a landscape plan. In the sense
I understand that.
We haven't hired a landscape architect, but if you look at the pictures that Bob showed you, what we want to do is, and we will be working with our neighbors directly to the west, the Murrays, on landscape planning for the overall property. The idea would be to plant things that are naturally occurring on a property that's adjacent to salt water. So along the eastern portion of the property, between the house and the river, where you see there's rocks behind the seawall. There's some Rosa rugosa that is planted there. Our intention is to plant naturally occurring seagrasses and Rosa rugosa in that area, which will substantially improve or mediate any runoff from the property beyond what's already occurring. If you see, there is about a 3-foot boundary inside the seawall that's currently there. That's a sort of a rock bed where the Rosa rugosa is planted. That will be planted out in a similar fashion.
Right, that's exactly what the 5 Mile River Commission is asking you to do, but we don't have a plan for that, and we just have this your testimony now.
That's
so
what we're going to do.
We need to answer their question, and then give you a waiver of 880 if you're going to do it.
We are going to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So then we need a plan.
We need a condition. Come up with a condition of approval.
All right. We'll do it. Then we'll put that as a condition of approval.
We can, one thing we can do, this is not a complicated planning that we're talking about.
No, it's not. It's simple. We're making it harder than it needs to be.
So we would just plan out that.
You do $100,000 in landscaping, then you got an issue.
What?
If you're doing a lot of landscaping, it's expensive, then you button up against the 50% rule again.
That doesn't count. It's work on the building that counts to the 50%, not the landscape.
But in any regard, we're not going to do $100,000 of landscaping. This is not expensive. The Rosa rugosa, this is what we did up at Block Island on our property there. You plant this along the shoreline. It's a very resilient plant that deals well with saltwater conditions. So we will plant that out in that area along with some naturally occurring seagrasses.
Beautiful.
And that would be very inexpensive, I can guarantee you.
$100,000.
And if we can get an estimate on that if you want, but that doesn't apply to the 50% in any regard. So
That's fine. As long, what we're gonna end up doing, and the concept is something like that will be in the resolution that gets drafted if this thing is voted for approval. The other thing that we're gonna ask you to require is the elevation certificate. So that's something
have
when you
one,
get
don't
the
we?
as-built survey, you
oh,
get that too.
get another one?
No, an elevation certificate, which is the as-built survey, which is what we require on these things at the end.
Got it.
We already have an elevation certificate. It's not going to change because none of the floor elevations referenced on the certificate are going to change. So
I get it.
you're getting an as-built survey.
Right, Darren Ostfund's asking for an as-built survey at the completion of the project, and we're gonna put on top of that an elevation certificate.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Yep.
Seymour will be happy.
And then we're also gonna make sure you have a landscaping plan. If we're gonna waive 880, we have to have some kind of representation in the resolution that you're gonna do this landscaping that they're asking for.
And happy to do that. And we can get a landscaping plan. That won't be difficult.
That'd be fantastic. All right? Any commissioners have any other questions on this application? We're good? Would anybody in the public domain like to speak to this application? If you get anybody, Fred, let me know.
No one, Steve.
Thank you. With that said, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing. That's Jennifer motion, Jim Rand seconded. Thank you. All right, we'll deliberate this in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item up for bid. I think we'll move back to that. Okay, next one, the coastal site plan review number 354, flood damage prevention application number 404, land filling and regrading application number 495, Michael and Justine Mullin at 8 Nickerson Lane, proposes to construct a new pool house and patio to the south and west of the existing pool, spa, and patio on the north side of the property and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including installation of a stormwater management. A 1.01 plus or minus acres subject property is on the north side of Nickerson Lane, approximately 250 feet west of its intersection with Nearwater Lane, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 52 as lot number 17 in the R1 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
This is property served by public water and sewer. The new pool house on the, I'll call it the southwest side of the pool. This is very straightforward. The property is doesn't need a wetlands approval. It's more than 50 feet from the nearby wetlands. It's in the coastal area. It's in the flood zone, but it's a pool house. I believe Doug DeVesta is here to explain the application.
Yep.
Briefly.
Sure.
All right, Doug, that's pretty straightforward.
Okay, good evening, Doug DeVesta, professional engineer, represent the applicant. As Jeremy said, we've got a 1.acre site, Nickerson Avenue on the north side, served by sanitary sewer out in Nickerson, and public water as well. The proposal is there's an existing pool with a patio around it. We're looking to put in a pool house at elevation 15.5. This dark line here is the flood zone, AE. On the west side is at elevation 14. To the east side of that is the X zone, so no flood elevation there. So we're keeping the house 1.5 feet above the proposed, or above the AE flood zone. It's an area that's already been landscaped, or lawn area. We're proposing to collect the runoff from the roof area and from this new proposed terrace with a trench, the channel drain at the end, bring it over to a bioretention area to handle the first inch of runoff. And so we're asking for a waiver of section 880 not requiring a full drainage study because we're in close proximity to Holly Pond. If you take a look at the location map, what you see here is here's our site. Here is the outline of Holly Pond. So we're very close to Holly Pond. So we're looking at just a 1 inch of runoff versus quality versus quantity of runoff. We are going to have a bathroom in the pool house, and that will be connected to the main house through a grinder pump. That will be connected into the house itself, into the sanitary sewer, and then into the existing E1 grinder pump and out into the street. And same thing with the water service going into the property itself. The property is a minor regrading going on just to get the elevation up to the elevation 15, because the pool right now is at elevation 15.1. So we're just a little bit higher than the pool. So one step down from the house into the patio area and then down into the pool. So that's really the gist of the project. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thanks for that. I'm just looking at the pool house plans that I have. Is there like a kitchen, or you said there's a bathroom inside here? I don't have the floor plans of this proposed.
Mark Andre, who is the architect, is on this call as well. He can go through the plans, the architectural plans. Mark, do you have the plans out or no?
I mean, you can just say yes or no.
Actually, I don't have the plans with me. Sorry.
In a year from now, if the Planning and Zoning Commission approves accessory dwelling units,
I only have elevations. I don't have the.
You remember? If you remember, if the answer is no, just say no.
If we have what? I'm sorry.
A kitchen.
There's a kitchenette. There's a kitchenette in a pool house and a full bath. There's not a kitchen there.
No kitchen.
So
no
meaning
kitchen.
meaning there's no cooking equipment there.
No cooking.
It's like a fridge or something.
I'm sorry.
No cooking facilities. Good. That's all we need here.
Well, a kitchenette will mean that there's not a stove, so you can actually cook.
Okay, perfect.
Right. You're allowed to have a refrigerator and a sink.
That's correct.
Perfect. All right. This looks pretty straightforward. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, sir, did you say something?
I was going to mention it's also a one-story building, and it complies to, it's a one-story accessory building, but it does comply to the setbacks, and the floor, as Doug described it, it's above the base flood line, and it's a slab on grade, so there's no need for any flood mitigation as far as installing flood vents.
Fantastic, thank you. You're 15.5. You're in good shape. Let me, sir, before I get to you, let me just ask the other commissioners if they have any questions, and I'll recognize you in probably hopefully a couple of minutes. Jim's okay. Larry, your mic is on. Any questions?
I'm just going back to the elevation issue. We're 1.5 feet above we're in an A13, so we're 1.5 feet above the 14 foot.
We're 14 foot.
Line. We're 15.5.
Yep.
And
Correct.
there's no requirement for the requirement is to be 14 feet 1 inches, I guess, right? There's no requirement to put any kind of like I've heard like a 5-foot buffer is required in new buildings, or
No.
is that not the case, Jeremy?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. I'm glad that's the answer. All right, no questions.
George Riley, your mic is on.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how we get credit for this as an ADU, but I guess not yet, huh?
Someday.
Someday.
Gotta put a bedroom in there.
Just leave room for
Someday.
like a cooking unit or something. Like,
Yeah, somehow, someday. Thank you.
I think we should do it.
Sarah, you have any questions?
No.
Are you good? Okay, sir, member of the public, sir, you just identify yourself and you can go right ahead and speak. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm Alec Wiggin. I'm Mike's neighbor. And I live, if you're looking at this site map, I'm on the west side, and that there's about 120 feet of property line that we share. And what's not too clear and from this is that the whole grade of the two lots goes east to west, flowing down to a drainage ditch on my property. The drainage ditch is a long thing that's actually taking water from the post road through various channels, and it drains into the Holly Pond. And my concern, and I think you should have a pool house, okay? I'm not against that. It's just when the pool was, I've lived here since, well, I actually grew up in the house, and I bought the house and moved in '87. And when they put the pool in, this is before, they graded, and the canting on the property increased the way it slopes down into my property, because I'm downhill, because the drainage ditch is the lowest point. So everything's moving toward the drainage ditch on my property. And I'm just concerned that additional, I don't know, filling or whatever grading is going to cant the property even more. And there's going to be topical, surface runoff onto my property. I'm not that sensitive, but I want it looked at or considered. And I also want to add that not visible on this plot here or diagram, is a pipe that runs from underneath Mike's house, catty corner to the northwest corner of the property. And that's a drainage pipe that water is pumped through and dropped at grade in the northwest corner. And so already there is water that's meandering down my property 6 or 8 feet wide, maybe 10 feet wide, toward the drainage ditch. And it makes it quite boggy. And, I don't play tennis back there or do anything back there, so it's not that big a deal. But I really don't want anything more to happen. And so I'm not certain how the plan takes into account that there's already a drainage pipe going through there. And maybe this is all a great opportunity to, this may work out terrifically for me. I can't really read plans, but it looks like you are concerned with drainage, and it looks like something there's, I guess you call it a catch basin. I'm not sure what it is, but so maybe hypothetically things even get better for me, but it's not so good the way it is. In fact, it's not good at all. And I'm really sensitive to not wanting to get worse, because that part of my property is a little bit boggy because of all this topical runoff. And I live downhill, so that's just an accident of nature. But those are my big concern is the drainage. And the only other concern I have is I don't know what the setbacks are, but I just hope they're being observed. So can somebody, I don't know what happens now. Do people comment or what happens?
Yes, I will get you some answers right now. I can tell you one thing relative to the setbacks. It is compliant, but relative to the engineering and sloping and the drainage, one of the towns, I call them frequent flyers, best engineers, is Doug DeVesta, who's working on the application. And I'm sure he's more than happy to answer all of your questions relative to the sloping and that pipe in the northwest corner and anything else that of your concern. So Doug, if you could please address Mr. Wiggins.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Sure. For the record, Doug DeVesta, the property does slope from a high point of 20, elevation 20 on the north and east corner of the property, sloping in a westerly direction towards Mr. Wiggins' property there. Currently, there is no drainage on the existing patio, and that all drains in that westerly direction. Now, the pool house will be placed between the pool and the property line, which will now be that runoff will be collected, as well as this proposed patio area will be collected and then brought into a drainage system that we're proposing on the north and west corner of the property there. When we dug some test holes in that area, we found the soils to be decent and it's good percolation rate. I think Mr. Wiggins did see us out there doing that test holes back a few months ago. So we are providing drainage to collect that runoff in that area there. Now, the pipe that he's talking about, I'm not sure, he's saying it's in the northwest corner, which would be in this corner in here. There's, we didn't hit any pipes. I didn't visually see any pipes in that area. Maybe it's an underground pipe or something. I know Darren did mention something about, in his comment letter, a drain pipe or a sewer pipe or something in that area. And if we do hit it or find it when we're doing this, that if he wants it to be, let's see, what number was that? Number 14, the old quote, it has a quotation, old soldier home sewer pipe. If that's found, we have to abandon it and plug it up according to Darren, and probably bring him out there. So again, I'm not sure of any other drainage pipes out in that area, but again, we are collecting the runoff from the site, from our new impervious areas, and detaining that on site.
Could I make a further comment?
Sure.
Thank you. The pipe is incredibly obvious. I don't understand how an engineer or anybody could miss it. If you go to the property right now, it's so obvious because the snow melts on top of it. So there's snow on each side of it. And you can see the way the pipe runs right through the property from the house. And it lets out topically, that is on the surface. So somebody, I mean, it's not hard to find the pipe. And the reference to the Civil War pipe comes down from Allen's Meadows, and I believe, and goes right under, unfortunately, right under Mike's house on the way to Holly Pond, subterraneally. And I think the previous owner to Mike, that pipe was compromised and water was gathering in Mike's basement, that owner's basement. And so they put a pipe in to take that water collecting and up to the northwest corner and pump the water there, and that's where it releases topically. So I find it pretty hard to believe that you can put I don't know, those catch basins and do construction and not run into that pipe. I mean, it's just, it boggles, well, it's not possible. So I really think somebody has to look at this a little bit more carefully, because it's, I mean, it's you can just walk there and see it. So I don't think this has been adequately addressed. Now, again, you guys are engineers, water engineers, you know how to deal with water, and maybe this pipe runs right into your catch basin and it all goes down, but deeply or somehow, so that my situation might even improve. But I do think it's sort of it's a bizarre sort of omission that this pipe running straight through, where you're going to construct this structure, and where the patio is going to be, and where the, I guess, catch drains, whatever they're called, are going to be, is not, you're not taking it into account. And you can see that I'm concerned about exacerbating the drainage problem, because I'm the guy that's downhill, and I'm already getting quite a lot of topical water that drains out and floods across that side of my property and makes it quite boggy.
But Mr. Wigan, to rest assured, that's why we're here. And that's why the last 4 years or 5 years, we require as-built surveys for all new projects like this. And as part of the as-built surveys, you have to, the surveyor is supposed to identify all underwater utility lines that go on properties, and it ends up being a condition of our approval. So your concerns are being addressed, and we've been trying to address them for the last, I don't know, 5 years, maybe. So, Doug,
well, can you say
sounds
why,
like there's a pipe there.
why the pipe isn't part of the plan, or is it noted on the plan?
But Doug never found it. So do you want to suspend this for a week, Doug, so you can find this pipe?
Well, I mean, again, if it was a pipe that was on the ground, and the surveyors usually pick up anything that they see on the ground, and they've done a topographical survey of this property, they would have picked it up. As far as I'm aware of, there's nothing that I visually saw through this area in here. I'm not sure exactly where he's talking about the pipe. It sounds like someone's coming down through here now. Excuse me, I'm speaking now. Let me finish up my talk, and then we'll go back. But again, if we were looking in this area in here, if he's talking about going into our patio area and the proposed pool house, I did not see anything here. And if you want, I mean, I'm going to be in town on Thursday. I will stop by the property and see where the snow is melting and see where this pipe is and have a better feel for it. But when I was out there, when there was no snow on the ground, I was unaware of any other pipe on this property that I could see.
Well, I think if you wanted to ask Mike, you could ask Mike, is he got a drainage pipe coming out of his basement that goes across the property and lets out his basement water, and he could solve the problem pretty quickly. And visually, it's not hard to see the excess or where the water comes out. But anyway, I've said my piece. It strikes me very odd that somehow people miss this.
Hey, Doug, what I would suggest is that we continue the hearing till next week, so you can meet with Mr. Wigan and make sure we just identify this thing before we close the hearing. Is that okay?
I can do that. I can do that. My client's on the call too. If you know, I don't see a problem with that. Hold it for 1 week. I don't see a problem with that.
I just want to be clear. I want Mike to have his pool house. I mean, you know, whatever. I want him to have that. I just want to be really clear, you know, careful about not exacerbating a problem that I'm already living with. And Mike didn't cause it. Okay, that's not the point. But I just think
it's fine. It's not a problem. This happens all the time.
So I would like to ask one question. So if the pipe does exist. I'm sorry, this is Mark Andre. I'm the architect for the project.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out where we're heading with this. Let's say the pipe does exist and it's below grade. Are you suggesting that we should cap it, relocate it into a different location? I'm trying to figure out what you would like us to do if that pipe does exist.
Well, let's find it first. And then we'll call it there. If we suspend the hearing, you know, or continue hearing it next week, we'll find it, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
You know, Mike's on the call. Okay, if he wants to comment, I mean, he certainly can, right?
The applicant is more than welcome to if he wants to. Wait, if we're going to suspend we're going to continue hearing anyway.
Okay.
So we can hear it next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's no problem then. We'll go. I'll do some research. I'll do some more investigation out there. Again, with snow on the ground, it's a little more harder to see what's going on. But if it's clearly draining on the ground, we'll be able to see it. But the snow has melted on it.
Hey, Doug, do you want my telephone number? I mean,
you can get it through Jeremy. We can do it through Jeremy.
Right. Your number online. Let's see.
Yeah, you don't need to tell our phone number on the Zoom call.
Right.
That's fine.
You
All right, so-
contact Jeremy tomorrow, and I'll get it from Jeremy.
Okay, hearings continued Tuesday, March 2nd, 7:30 PM. See you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next item on the agenda, land filling regrading application number 494, Jeffrey and Rebecca Morrison, 13 Prospect Avenue, proposal to raise and renovate a portion of the existing residence and construct additions to the structure, including a new covered front porch, and perform related site development activities, including filling and regrading of the front yard and installation of stormwater management. The 0.494 plus or minus acre subject property is on the south side of Prospect Avenue, approximately 550 feet east of its intersection with Mansfield Avenue, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 16 as lot number 75 in the R1/3 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
This is a simple addition to an existing house on Prospect Avenue. The addition is mostly in the back of the house. They are putting in proposed underground detention in the backyard. And as part of this application, there's a little bit of grading between the front of the house and the street. And due to the location of that grading, within 15 feet of the property line, it's before the commission. The grading is minimal. Harry Rocheville from McCord Engineering is here to describe it. I think at max, it's 1 foot in any one location. It really keeps the existing grades. It's the regrading is a very minor portion. And if you look at the plans, you'll see it's all between the house and the road, and that's only a 15-foot area. And they are adding drainage to the house, which would allow them to manage drainage better than it's managed now. So Harry, very quickly, the grading in the front of the house, 1 truckload maybe?
Yeah, one max. The idea, excuse me, Harry Rocheville, McCord Engineering, representing Rebecca and Jeffrey Morrison. Jeremy, that's correct. 1 truckload max. We anticipate using the soil excavator for the detention system and the addition foundations primarily to be stockpiled here. And also, as a revision, we had to do another cut wall over here, 2 terrace walls. So we'll even have some more fill to use to place in the front yard. So, as you said, one truckload maximum is what we're anticipating.
Just for the record, Harry, you said another retaining wall over here. You were not doing screen sharing, so whatever you were pointing to, we didn't see what you were pointing.
Oh, it says I am screen sharing. You cannot see my screen? I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, we have the site plan. The latest site plan is a revised plan dated February 22nd, 2021. And that's the latest one that Harry submitted, I believe, earlier today, right there.
Got it.
Yes, that's correct. And it's on the west side of the house. There's 2 terraced retaining walls. Those are also within 15 feet of the property line. And those walls would be 2 foot maximum.
Okay, that's fine.
And the purpose of those walls is to provide access to a basement door and to place the sill of a bay window in that basement above grade. And those will extend existing walls off the patio in the west side of the house.
It's not on your plan, Jim Rand. So the only reason why I've seen this application is because it's grading. And
it's grading right in the front. That's it.
In the front yard.
1 truckload.
Okay.
1.
I got. Any commissioners have any questions on this application? None? Great. Any member of the public want to speak to this application? Seeing none. With that said, Harry, you're all done, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to close. I think it's George Riley's turn. George Riley firsted, motioned, and Larry seconded. Jennifer Lee's in the game. Jennifer Lee, he was the second. Oh, Jen, do you have a question on the application? You just seconding.
I'm good.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. All right. That's it. The hearing's closed. We'll deliver it next week or 2.
Yep.
And get back to you with an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, ma'am. Next item on the agenda, land filling regrading application number 496, Kenneth and Karla Coe at 281 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. Proposal to construct a new single-family dwelling on a now vacant lot, install a pool, terraces, a new driveway and parking court, installation of a stormwater management, and perform related site development activities. The 1.32 plus or minus acre property is on the west side of Hollow Tree Ridge Road, approximately 100 feet south of its intersection with Haskell Lane, and is shown as assessor's map number 26 as lot 52 in the R1 zone. Evan, what do we got?
This is a proposed new two-story dwelling on a now vacant lot. Professional engineer Craig Flaherty is here to talk about how they designed the grading and drainage to meet the stormwater management regulations. There's wetlands all the way on the west side of the property as you go further downhill. And Mr. Flaherty is here to present the application.
Just before you go on, Craig, there he is. Just for the record too, this application was also referred to the EPC Commission. The EPC said that it was, I think it's not significant enough to hold a vote, but they requested an approval from staff. So EPC already looked at this and I think signed off. Is that right?
That's right.
I can talk to that.
Great, fantastic. Craig Flaherty, the floor is yours, sir. Take it away.
For the record, my name is Craig Flaherty. I'm a senior engineer and principal with Redness and Mead, a land use consulting company with offices in Stamford. On this project, we've provided the civil engineering and permitting services. The land surveyor was Seymour. I'm going to share my screen now, walk you through the application. This is just a clip from Google Earth to provide an orientation. This is the property here. It is a rear lot off of Hollow Tree Ridge Road. Hollow Tree Ridge Road is on your right. Deepwood is to the south at the bottom of the screen, and Hickory is to the west on the left of your screen. At one point in the past, all three of these properties were owned by the same individual that resided in 283 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, just to the north. They had purchased the property and knocked down a house that used to be here on 281. So I've switched from this aerial, which is a photo from 2018, to this aerial, which is a photo from 2014, to show you that there was a house on this lot previously. It was knocked down by this individual so they could enjoy some more privacy. This house also at the time shared a driveway with 283 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. In 2019, the mapping of these three lots were revised, and subsequently all three lots have been now resold to new owners. So this is the new shape of 281 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. Again, it's oriented in the same way. You can see the flag or access way stem that comes in from Hollow Tree Ridge Road. This is now separate and distinct from its original shared drive with 283 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. If you happen to go by the site, there's a gravel drive roughed in right now to provide access to the property. The land on the property generally slopes from south to north. So water is going up the screen as it flows over and off the property. That's for probably the access way and the east half of the lot. On the west half of the lot, as was mentioned, there is a wetland edge right about there. And there is a water course that runs through the westernmost tip of the lot right about there. So there's the land on the back half of the lot kind of slopes towards the wetland and slopes towards the water course. The water course flows off the property like so. So we are proposing a footing drain discharge that extended into the EPC's regulated area. It's 50-foot upland review area, but not into the wetlands. So we did need to file an application with EPC. They heard that application at the beginning of the month. decided it did not require a public hearing, and it received a generally favorable review, but I think they're going to vote on a specific document at their meeting next week. So that's the existing condition. This is the proposed site plan. I think I might just show you the house plans before I do the site plan. Not terribly relevant, but I think it is constructive. This is the front of the house. It's designed to be a split level house. The part you see on the right here is a 2-car garage accessed from the south side. And this is slab on grade, no basement, no crawl. The part in the middle is 2 stories with 3 bedrooms above, 1 bedroom which will largely be used as an office below, and this section just has a crawl space. The section that's farthest south on the site is the main living space, the living dining area. Again, this is a split level, so you're a half level up from the entrance and then a half level up to the 2nd story. And this section will have a full basement, but it's shallow because it's under the high section of the house. Again, 1-car garage, 2-story section, 1-story section over a mechanical and storage basement. So how that looks when we come to the site plan, you see the new driveway coming in from Hollow Tree Ridge Road. You see the house site here, which I will now zoom in on. So as I mentioned, there's no disturbance in the 50-foot upland review area other than a footing drain discharge, which discharges here outside of the wetlands. And so all of the work on site is in the upland areas. There is, since it's a rear lot, it's got some unique setbacks. I'm generally tracing the zoning setback line now. So it's actually a 90-foot setback required because it's behind another lot. So we generally place the front of the house up against that 90-foot setback. It's got a 40-foot setback here to the southerly property line. That's a rear yard setback based on the way your regulations are defined. So again, here you see the garage is on the north side of the house. This is where the 2-car entrance will be. The entire driveway stem is going to be porous asphalt over a crushed stone reservoir. The driveway court up near the house is going to be made of permeable pavers, again, over a crushed stone reservoir. That crushed stone reservoir is able to collect the water that comes through those 2 porous and permeable surfaces. And that helps us meet not only our water quality retention requirements, but it also helps us comply fully with Section 880. We've taken no credit for the prior development on the lot. The existing conditions drainage analysis is as you see the site today, which is just lawn and trees. And so the mitigation that we're proposing in our stormwater management plan fully mitigates the proposed hardscape back to that lawn condition. So let me just jump over quickly to the drainage plan. I talked about the crushed stone reservoir under the stem driveway. I talked about the crushed stone reservoir under the permeable paver drive court. There is also a small infiltration system in the rear yard, which collects some roof leaders from the house and drains from the pool terrace. Those are our stormwater mitigation devices. So largely we're here because this is an excavation and filling application. We are bringing in more than the typical 50 cubic yards of fill onto the site. That is to basically provide some elevation to do the stormwater management, so we can keep the stormwater management devices above groundwater, so they'll continue to work in times of seasonal high groundwater. And it is also to keep the lower sections of the foundation above that groundwater level as well. Again, I described how the property generally slopes from south to north. So water goes in this direction, or water goes in this direction towards the wetland and the watercourse. All right, cleaning it up a little bit. We are proposing a freestanding 30-inch tall dry laid stone wall on the southerly property boundary. Where the drive court abuts that wall, instead of a freestanding wall, it'll be a retaining wall. It'll still maintain its 30-inch height as viewed from this property to the north, but it'll retain about 2 feet of soil that kind of holds up the drive court and allows the drive court to be level as it gets into the garage. So that's the grading we had within 15 feet of the property boundary. Because our property slopes from south to north, there is no impact on the adjacent property. We're not preventing their water flow at all. We believe we fully comply with Section 850 and your standards of decision under Section 853. That is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Always thorough as expected. Okay, I have one question I can hold it to the end, just with regards to. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry. With regards to Darren Astafine's memo, you're okay with all that stuff?
Yeah. So he provided an email. His email to me was dated February 8th.
Got it.
At 5:18 p.m. I responded to him on February 8th at 6:14 p.m. With our specific answers to all of his comments. I talked to Darren on February 9th, Tuesday, and he said he's good. He doesn't have any further comments after reading my comments, and I related that in an email to Jeremy on Tuesday, February 9th at 1:32 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Any commissioner comments on this application at this point? Go ahead, Kara.
No comment. Only I'm looking at the paper package we got. So this is just for Fred and Jeremy, not for you, Craig, because I'm sure it's probably online. Is his response to Doug's February 8th online, or did we get those emailed? I just know he just said that. I just had the February 8th ones, I think.
We have Craig's February 8th, 6:14 p.m. email. Yeah, that was in your packet.
It was in your packet. There's another one that's like from Tuesday that we don't have, where Darren says fine.
Okay, that's one I don't have. I don't think.
Darren did not send an email.
It was a verbal
conversation with him, and then I related my conversation to Jeremy.
That was my only issue. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question on this application? Brand new house on a nice vacant lot?
Nope.
Okay. Then the last question I have for you, Craig, is I guess there's a woman that lives a block and a half away. She sent you an email. Did we take care? Is she satisfied at the end of the day yet? You know?
Yeah. So we got Jeremy alerted me to an email he received from a Mrs. Joyce. And Mrs. Joyce lives kind of, let's see if I'll mark it on here, kind of like right here. So the north side of her property is along that water course that leaves our property. And I responded to her email, letting her know that there would be no increase in stormwater runoff to that water course, and that we had studied it very carefully. We actually included in our drainage analysis a complete study of the 37-acre watershed that's tributary to that water course, to make sure that we weren't having an impact there.
Okay. They're not an adjacent abutting. They're not an abutting property, right?
It's like it's off. It's not even on the corner. It's off the corner. Yeah.
But
So
it's still above and beyond the applicant,
Well, it's downstream. It's downstream, Karen. That's
It
why
is
it matters a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly, but I'm like, I think it's better that even though they're on a budding, that it was the right,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think all the commissions are fine. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to this application? Fred, you can alert me if anybody says yes. Just for the record, I'm really tired of this Zoom stuff. It's killing me.
No one, Steve.
All right, thank you. With that said, I'd entertain a motion to close. It's Jim Rand, a second from Kara Gately. All right, Craig, good job. Well,
All right, have a good night.
Next week.
Time for dinner.
Get back to you. I'm starving, by the way. All right, that's good. All right, I think that's the end of the public hearing?
Yep, general meeting.
Fantastic. General meeting. We are done with the public hearing. We're going to switch into the general meeting. Okay. I think we have all 6 commissioners, right? First time in a while. Good, great. Jennifer Leahy, you back? Jennifer's mic is on. Good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Jen. Special permit application number 317 ELD Street Properties LLC, 1049 Boston Post Road. This is the Compass Real Estate Office that wants to go into the Tina Dragon store. We heard this hearing on, wow, January 5th. So was that a month and a half ago? I think we deliberated once with just 4 commissioners live. And we didn't want to move forward till we had all 6 in the same spot. So we're going to try to finish our deliberations tonight and see where we go. I don't really remember. I remember who spoke and what everybody said, whatnot. There was 2 people at one point in time were kind of sort of for it. 2 people at one time were kind of sort of not for it. So that's why we waited till everybody was here.
I'm waiting for more information.
I get it. We're going to start from scratch anyway. But with that said, one of the most pertinent items in this application is the finding. What finding is it? It's like 904H or something?
It's section 1005H, which is that it's impractical for a retail operation. I don't have the exact wording in front of me.
That's okay.
But that was what we talked about at the January 12th deliberations. The minutes show that Mr. Riley said he did not think it was impractical. He said there was not, that the commission did not have enough evidence to make the required finding under the regulations. Ms. Gately agreed that with Mr. Riley that there's no basis to make the required finding under section 1005. So we didn't hear from Jennifer or Jim on January 12th. So once we can hear from everyone tonight, Fred and I can draft up a resolution.
So the only thing I want to add before, and it's really Jennifer and Jim to chime in, is that to me is one of the hard things to try to figure out. I mean, I personally think that it's not a bad thing to have a retail space on the ground floor that's a realtor. But if you go back in precedent, and I don't really like precedent because I'm not a lawyer, but I know Kara does. She loves precedent. With the Bankwell application, we had them change whatever they had to change so Bankwell can get approved. Because a bank falls in the same bucket as these guys. So with that said, Jennifer, you want to go first? And then who else? And then Jim, and then we'll go back to you, Kara. Jen, any comments, or Jim, anyone want to go first?
Jennifer, you go.
Sure. I think I'll probably reiterate what Steve said. So I think, I've talked about parking, but parking really, if they wanted to go in the second floor space, we've had the same exact problem. We have a parking issue. This has nothing to do, but unfortunately for us in some ways, right, and for Darien, that has nothing really to do with this application because they could go in by right in the second floor. That being said, with the Bankwell application, we made them come back, right? So I don't. What
they did? That's the whole issue. Is that we didn't make them come back. The commission would not make the finding that it was impractical, and they withdrew the application.
Correct.
And then applied for a reg change, which again we all know I don't like the.
Right. So correct. So Kara, thank you.
Reg changes. So
yeah.
I think we should address what our regs say.
Yeah, I agree. So Kara, thank you for you were much more articulate. So that's my issue. Like, you know, Bankwell, they
Like
took,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel exactly the same. So I have nothing else to say, but that if we kind of have to follow that precedent and then discuss what our regulation is and decide if banks and real estate, it makes sense for what that regulation is if this keeps happening.
Okay.
Imran, any comments, sir, to add?
Well, I guess I'm not terribly concerned about the precedent, frankly. I'd rather see the space occupied than have it sitting there empty with a big for rent sign on it. I think it reflects better on the town and on the little stretch of shops of which this would be a part. The issue that we discussed at some length previously about walking past and people being able to stop in and so on and so forth. I think I meant to drive up there today and take a look at who it is, but there's a store at the very far north end of South Avenue, on the corner, on the right hand corner. New Canaan, right?
Okay.
And now the windows are a little bit lower down, but they got pictures.
Oh, New Canaan has realtors.
Everybody's stopping there. I mean, even people who, I've lived in this house for almost 50 years and I got no intention to move. I ain't going anywhere, but I always look in that window. And other people do too. And it's sort of like a little gathering place. And the only thing I'd like to see is if they do move into the space, put some pictures up of available places in town, because that'll gather people in.
Right. I mean, that's what
it's
Banker. That's what Colbert Banker has at the other end of town. I mean, it's a nice storefront, but the problem is I don't know how you come up with that finding.
It's different. And can I just clarify though, it's not about precedent, it's about our own regs.
You're right.
Right? So if we're expecting applicants to follow the town regs, how can we as a commission not follow the regs? I don't think any actual evidence was presented to show a finding that it's impractical for retail. But in terms of practicality, I agree on real estate and the pictures, and I agree on the undesirability. And I am not in favor in any way of empty storefronts. So it's about following our own regs, absent of finding or evidence presented to us to allow us to have that finding.
But I mean, I was one that said the word precedent. The other thing I want to add to that is the precedent of expressing was, you're 100% correct. Bankwell withdrew their application because, we weren't going to find that finding, and they
would not make the finding.
Right. Larry, you want to say something, sir?
Well, yeah, so it just goes back to what I've been saying throughout this whole process is, I consider a retail, I consider there's commercial real estate and there's retail real estate. This is retail. So I don't feel bad. I don't feel that I'm breaking the precedent, that I'm breaking our regs by supporting what I consider to be a retail business.
I don't think it's a retail business. I'm a real estate agent and I run a huge team. It is not a retail business. I do not have robust transactions that go on because people look at storefront pictures. They're awesome. And I think I get it. And I like what you're saying. And I think separate to what I do inside there, it is not a robust business. People don't come in to hang out with me. If I'm in my office, I'm not doing business. The people that are in a real estate office are typically not the people who are doing business. There are assistants or agents who don't do business. And so it's not good. And they're not buying it in the so.
Larry, I think it has to be said that retail real estate is a real estate office for retail sales. It doesn't mean it's a retail real estate.
Like
It's,
service
it doesn't
business,
make it retail because it sells retail property, you know, sells properties on a retail basis. I just have to, I guess I'm a strict constructionist, which would surprise a lot of my friends, but for us to now find that it is impractical, undesirable, and inconsistent with our standards to say that this cannot be a retail space just makes no sense to me. I think we're about to head into a lot of changes as the Corbin district develops and all of those storefronts have to go someplace else. There's going to be more retail moving in. It is a very desirable spot right there. And to suggest that it's not just makes no sense to me. I don't know why in particular real estate offices were segregated and specially provided for, but they were. And we have to deal with that.
That's the problem. I mean, like I've said, I love walking up and down, you know, the main street in Chatham and Cape Cod and eat my ice cream and look at the windows and go window shop for houses. But our regs say what they say. That's the problem.
But in the future,
do our regs say that, or did our did I forget the plan that David Genovese said he sat on and it was put out in I think 95?
Yeah, no,
That's what said it shouldn't be real estate and banks. I mean, yeah, real estate and banks.
But that doesn't mean
there's something different in the regs, or did I miss that?
You're not bound by it.
But to Larry's point, so guys, we can also think out of the box. For my suggestion in real estate, and at this point, you know, I'll say it publicly, it's these can be hybrid spaces. So there could be a retail space that says, hey, this window compass or element would be great for your listings. And maybe that's where, when we think out of the box, like Kara said, or George said, when the future of what storefronts look like in retail probably are going to be more hybrid. And I think that there's a place for both of those things.
Agree.
So it wouldn't be me being that imaginative. Must have been Larry.
Well, I think Larry's right. Who doesn't like to look at real estate? I love my job every day of my life, but I don't think it needs to be a first floor. Like the business needs to be on the first floor because it's not robust. It's not retail. Like people are coming in to actually purchase things. But I think we need to think out of the box and make sure our regulations allow for it.
Agree. So I think this maybe is a jumping off point, right, for the commission to look at where in our regs, given the change and given what is going on in the state and in the country and in our town, where in our regs can we be forward looking and address issues, not just with respect to this, but I think this should be considered. But I think, you know, we hear the same things over and over again. Parking, you know, multi-use development, multi-family housing, accessory dwelling units, right? That even came up again today. So I think this seems like a really opportune and ripe time to be forward-looking and think about, instead of being application specific on how we revisit and relook at regs, but take, you know, control over and look at it proactively.
Thanks, sure. But that's honestly, you know, I've said it too many times, but you know, that's what the town plan of conservation development is. That's what we hired Glenn Trundle to do over the last couple of years. This one item didn't get picked up. But anyway, that's it. So just to take a straw poll, because we're gonna have Fred and Jeremy some direction. Larry, you think we should approve it? Is that right?
Yeah, I feel we should approve.
Okay, Jim Rand,
Yes.
you think we should approve it? Okay. George Riley said no. Jen said no. Kara said,
Sadly, I'm really, I don't like saying no, but we have to abide by our own regs. We have to, we have to.
on the swing factor, it's a viable retail location. So you cannot answer that finding. You know, so if they want to do what Bankwell did to withdraw it and change the reg, you know, God bless them. But there's no way we can say that's not a viable solution.
We'll draft something for either next week or the week after.
So, all right, that's it. Hey, finally, we're moving on. Next item, amendment of business site plan number 308, special permit application number 312, Baywater, 34 Old Kings Highway, OKSH S, 34 Old Kings Highway, South CBD zone. We got a letter from David Genovese that said, hey, can we put both zoning applications together and not have a two-step process? I get what he's saying. I don't know why we did it as a one-step process. Maybe we've been doing that for a while.
No, normally we do it as a two-step process, elevation only, and then the plans came in. Those are the plans over there.
Right.
And we unrolled them and said, this is all one step. David, it's right in the resolution.
Right. Right.
It would go quicker if I didn't do it that way.
So when we build a single-family house, is it one step or two steps?
Two.
Interesting. So what do you want us to do?
It's up to you. In this case, there's no concern about the vertical elevation because it's not in the flood zone or anything sensitive like that.
Yep.
And David owns basically most of the properties around it.
Well, it's got a driveway.
Right. And there's no setback issues because it's in the downtown. So I would say in this one case, if the commission wanted to say, you know what, in this one instance, we're okay with it, I would be okay with it.
Okay. If Jeremy signs off on it, then I sign off on it. Anybody have any questions on this?
I don't.
Larry's saying no. Kara, George Rice, no. Jen's no. Jim Rand's no. Okay. You all right, Kara? You're biting your nails again.
I was just sorry. It's a bad habit.
That's okay.
All
right.
Great. So I'll let Mr. Genovese know 6-0 commission modified. Okay, great.
Okay. We don't think of it. Okay. Deliberations only on public hearings closed on February 23rd. Is that today?
Yeah. Do you want to skip that?
No, skip that.
Okay, next.
It's 10:30 at night. We're supposed to be out of here. Approve of minutes. Can we punt those?
If you wish, we'll put them on for next week.
Can we just punt those things? Because I want to get to the next item, which is director's report and chairman's report. Right, because it's getting to 10:35. It's getting late.
Yeah, it's almost 10.
The chairman's report is it's really, I just want to talk about, and I spoke to some of you guys or texted some of you guys offline or online. It's exactly what happened, which I was afraid was going to happen. It did happen. Some of the proposed bills that we were talking about relative to the subcommittee and the bills that we looked at last year, and the subcommittee spent weeks and weeks and weeks looking at them. They were filed and went to committee at some point in time. I don't know when they were filed actually, but they went to committee last week. I found out on Friday. And it's to me it's dirty pool, but that's besides the point. Let's not get down. It's gonna go down that road. But it was the I found about these the committee hearings on either Thursday or Friday. Yeah, I think I found out Friday. You know, that's a half day. Everyone's going away for long week, President's weekend. Monday's no school. Jeremy's not working Friday. Fred's not working Friday. No one's working on Monday. If you're going to submit testimony to speak on Thursday, you have to have it in by like 3 o'clock on Wednesday. You know, I personally do not want to speak as a chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission without you guys know what I'm going to speak in advance. So I did not put in testimony. I also spoke to my counterparts. Hold on, Karen. I spoke to my counterparts in Greenwich and my counterpart in Westport. They did not testify either. The long and the short of it is, I pulled some stuff down from the webpage, and just so you know, there's some agenda that was on a webpage which talks about Thursday, February 18th at 11 o'clock, the Zoom meeting, and these are the bills that we talked about. All the bills now that we looked at 6 months ago have different names. The one I did print out is bill number 804. I personally call it the Sarah Bronin bill. It was introduced by Mr. Arnwar. I don't know Sarah Bronin if she was standing next to me, but supposedly she said it's not her bill. The point of the story is these meetings that were last week were not in front of the full House or full Senate, they were committee meetings. So first it has to go through committee, and then if it gets to the committee, then it goes to the full House and the full Senate. And that's when, you know, I personally would like to be able to testify where these bills go from here to there. I don't really know, but this one bill, and I printed it out for myself. It's called Bill 804. It's in paragraph form, as you can see, and I'll have Jeremy email this to you guys so you can see it tomorrow. But it talks about 1, address sewer flow; 2, restructure zoning enabling housing; 3, address inclusive housing use for inclusive community; 4, you know, several changes to zoning laws, middle housing, accessory apartment units, mixed uses, and multi-unit residence, parking space, traffic needs; 5, proceedings associated with certain resident development projects. I don't really know what that means. 6 was required Secretary of the Office of Policy Management to convene a working group to study affordable mixed housing plans. I think we're already doing that anyway. Hold on, Karen. 7, allow housing authorities to expand their areas of operation. That we talked about that. And then 8, require minimum training for land use and planning for other members of municipal board. So that's what this one bill was. And when we looked at these months ago, they were 30 pages. This is 2 pieces of paper. Wait, hold on, Karen, hold on. I got it. Hold on. So we talked about some of these items. I did not testify. There was a group of people that did testify last Tuesday. One was Miss Geiger, who's the chairman of the Architects Review Board, the ARB. And then I think another selectman did. I don't know if she testified as a selectman or as a regular citizen of town. And there was a couple other women. They were, lack of a better word, they interfaced in advance with Terry Wood, who's our town rep, or the state rep for there. And so they did some testimony, and people did call me and say, you know, can I say this or this or this? But I don't think they spoke in an official capacity. So the point of what I wanted to bring up is there was this bill. There's another bill that's called, we talked about 804. There was another bill that's called Senate House Bill 5683, an act concerning affordable housing. Some of those people I just mentioned, they testified in support of that bill. And there's another bill that's called House Bill 6430, an act concerning housing authority jurisdiction. The people that I spoke to, one of them testified against that document. There was something else that was on there that had to do with fees at beaches, I think. Yeah, that was totally different, but fees that was in this session, that was geared towards Westport and Greenwich, because they have high fees for their beaches for out-of-town residents. So Westport and Greenwich testified against that, I think. But the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you is that this stuff did happen. It happened when most of us were on vacation. We didn't have a meeting on the Tuesday of that week, so we couldn't really react fast enough. We had a busy week, you know, and I was not going to do anything on behalf of the zoning commission without your guys' approval. So it's going to come back again some other day. I don't know where this is. I still have to get some feedback from other people on what did happen or where it transcribed. I don't really know, but I've not had the time to interface with Amy Stevenson or really Jeremy much about it. But so that's what I wanted to report to you guys. And then the next thing is Jeremy's report. But Carrie, you want to speak relative to this? Go ahead.
When a skeleton bill gets proposed, and that's what 804 was, it's a skeleton bill, right? It's a pared down bill that went from 30 odd pages down to like nothing. You still have time after the official testimony date to submit written testimony. So even if the date that passed to testify live in person, that doesn't mean we can't take a position, or the commission or the town can't take a position in writing and submit written testimony. That date has not yet passed. I can look up what the exact date is, but I'm not on the subcommittee. So I can look up the date for everybody and circulate that.
No,
And
this is
if
what we'll do. We'll have Jeremy and our Fred draft
it's not
something.
like
When you guys draft something, flow it to the subcommittee and we can vote on it next Tuesday.
that
Or
might
debate it
be,
next Tuesday at our meeting
figure out what the date is.
and then do it.
But didn't we draft
Hey,
something?
I'd rather do it live versus virtual. And I also don't want to do it over email. So,
I was gonna
is
set
that-
the date of when written testimony needs to, could, like the deadline, right? Because there's the date for when public testimony live, and then there's a date where written testimony can be submitted and will be considered. So it's not like, oh, this is all over, right? Voices can be heard. That was the only point I wanted, and I can
We'll find
certainly.
out we'll get that date.
Let me just raise a
Go
point.
ahead, Jim.
We have this subcommittee. There was quite a bit of work done on it, but we're not running the town, okay? We wrote the report, we bounced it around, we revised it, and we submitted it to Jamie, I assume. Who did we send it to? We sent it to
No,
anybody?
it's still an internal document. It's not been submitted to First Selectman's office.
But why? That's, I guess, maybe I was confused.
I
as
thought
well.
we were finished for as far as the subcommittee's concerned. I think it's got to be submitted to Jamie, and then let the selectmen figure who's going to carry the water and do the testimony and the rest of that. If they want to push it back to planning and zoning to do the testimony, fine. But to my way of thinking, we finished here a month ago and nothing's happened.
I have to say, Jim, we are an independently elected board responsible for planning and zoning. So we need to be heard on this, it seems to me. I think we should get that letter to, Bob Duff and whoever, maybe Carla Leone for the time being, or whoever, Terry Wood, et cetera.
Everyone.
Some of the players ought to have that letter.
Okay.
So what I think
I'm sorry, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, let's just take the letter that we did all the effort on. Let's look it over one more time, see if there's anything that needs to be just amended due to whatever we've learned in the last 2 months.
Right.
And then let's, as a committee, vote on it, and then we're submitted to Jamie.
No, I think
Steve, maybe make it a letter to the editor, something of that nature, but or submit it as our testimony as well.
Okay.
And get it out there.
I agree.
Let's put it in our packets this week as an agenda item, right? Just the same way you do a resolution.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about it
On agenda Tuesday.
on agenda on Tuesday. So you're gonna get whatever form it is now. Agenda. I think Fred or Jeremy made some tweaks to it. I think they're now the owner of the document, for lack of a better word. We'll get it in our packets, review it, between now when our packets come and Tuesday, and we'll treat it the same way as a resolution. We'll go over it and then vote on it. And if there's anything in there that says, and I forget it, I had it, I carried it around with me in my briefcase in my pocket for a month.
People worked really hard on it, and yes, the
Agreed.
briefs may have changed, and so there might be little tweaks or adjustments given the changes to the bills.
Right, if it's got specific to House Bill blah, 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 and that doesn't exist anymore because it got buried or they canceled it.
So Jim and Jennifer, Jeremy, do you want to just send us, tomorrow, just send us all the recent version, so we're all working off the same version.
Yep.
And then why don't we just, if we have, I bet we can do it, just everyone, we can Google Doc it, suggest some edits, and maybe have it all ready to go, teed up by Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, to get it in the quote-unquote packet, it's got to be done by Thursday.
I get the packet on Friday. I'm talking, you can just email it to us now.
Yes.
And we can work on it the whole week.
So
the subcommittee can work on it. The subcommittee can work on it Wednesday, Thursday, and it gets in the packet on Thursday. These guys don't work Fridays. That's why you get the packet Thursday night.
But what about public comment? Because we had talked about having that available.
It'll be at the meeting.
Correct, but I think first the commission's got to approve it, and then we can go public comment on it.
Oh, in that order? Okay.
Yeah, I would do it that way, because we have to sign off. The subcommittee's going to be finished, right? And they did what they did. Then the other 3 of us that are not on the subcommittee have to look at it, and then once all 6 of us say, okay, then we can go public comment. Okay, that's the whole reverse funnel thing I was talking about from the beginning. Starts with 3, it goes to 6, then it goes to it goes up the ladder. We just have to, to Kara's point, we have to get something ready, and we can send it to the Bob Duffs of the world and the other our elected officials. When I was asked to do, testimony, he said, hey, it's only 3 minutes. Do something for 3 minutes. But if it doesn't have to be 3 minutes anymore, it can be longer. And yes, that did come up to me that if you're going to put something in writing and you're not going to speak about it in public, it can be longer than 3 minutes. So we can write 4 pages if we want to. Okay, Kara, you were saying something? Did I cut you off? I apologize.
No, that was it.
Okay. And then with regard to, we did get another letter from this guy, Rolf Albin. Said one of the people that sent RTM District 4 in our packets, he wants us to make this public too. I understand it, I get it, and I don't disagree with it at all. But I think as a commission, the subcommittee worked really hard, and I appreciate that. We have to get our stuff, our ducks in a row, and then bring it out to the general public. People are asking me about it.
Wait, who is?
And I feel bad that I didn't testify, but I didn't think it was a good bit. And I spoke to my counterparts, and they said we're not testifying either, because exactly what I never heard that word before, Kara. It's a skeleton bill. That's the first I've ever heard of it. But that's kind of the way they described it to me.
It's skeleton.
I never heard the word skeleton before.
But that's what it is, right? It's like all the meat's pulled out, and and so what can people test? They pull all the meat out, present it, and then you have days. The testimony date is set literally during vacations, no time for people to testify, but there is procedurally still time to submit written testimony. And then they add in all this stuff later after those deadlines, right? Because they don't want the public testimony, because public testimony is very persuasive and really compelling.
Right. The only thing I want to add to that too is Jeremy and your CCM meetings, or your whatever meetings are called, they're called CCM, which is
Council of Municipalities talked a lot about this.
This came up. This 804 thing came up, and what got back to me was certain things that are in here, which were, give me an example.
Well, for example, Sarah Bronin talked about
the fees part,
technical review fees. And the latest revision of that, she took that proposal out of her segregate CT platform. It was kind of interesting, but she got a lot of pushback. Right. So at this point, I don't know if Senator Anwar has put it in, but when I had spoken or heard Sarah Bronin speak, she said Senate Bill 804 she did not consider that her bill for whatever reason. She didn't go into why she did not consider that her bill, whether there's no meat on the bone or whatever it is.
Legislator, she can't submit a bill.
Right. Certainly that's the key, but I'm sure she's working with some legislator to get things moved along, or a group of them.
Because that specific one line item it's number 5 on this bill, where it says address certain fees, application appeals, or other proceedings for residential development project. So it's in, it's out.
But to Kara's point, and Steve, to your point too, because it's a skeleton, I think we probably err on the side of what we did. Things can be put back in, so I'd rather just for us to keep, because it, like you said, it goes in and out. And what we wrote, I think, is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah,
it's better to be general, right? And be principle based, because they're stripping out specifics. So, and I think the points you guys raised and spoke of were, the important points, rather than squabbling over specifics. Sometimes you get mired in the details, and then you might agree on certain, like everyone might agree on certain over, arching themes.
The guidance that got that back to me was the guidance that got back to me is if you're gonna put in testimony, keep it based on concepts, not and principles, broad, not specific. Like, I mean, I kept bringing up that letter from Ridgefield, and Ridgefield was very specific. It said, on line number 67 of bill number blah, 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 we don't like this. The people that talk to me now or give me guidance and whatnot, they said, don't do that because just what Karen said, it's a moving target. So that's
Home
that.
rule, local authority, keep it, that's kind of broad topic.
Yep, exactly. All right, next, director's report.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are working on, as we've mentioned in prior meetings, a number of proposed zoning regulation amendments. Hopefully Fred and I can have something ready for hearings in April on these topics. So if you have thoughts, please give us a call as we work on drafting over the next, I'll call it a week, to get something in the pipeline on those 5 topics there. That's it.
Which is the 5 topics that are on the agenda.
Yes.
And one of them was ADUs. And I'll just read it. ADUs, adjusted dwelling units, inclusionary housing, parking, limited minimum house apartment size requirements, and allowing 2 houses on 1 lot temporarily. That seems this house the guy was building, his new house.
Mr. Brown on Peach Hill Road.
And he wanted to live in his garage, and we said no. So that's it.
So we're working on that.
We just
Fairfield may have a model for you because they just adopted the ADU provision.
Exactly, George. Ridgefield and Fairfield, we're looking at theirs. Yes.
Wilton also?
I believe so as well. Yes, Karen.
And I think Wilton is kind of taking it. I think if you compare, I think Greenwich, Ridgefield, Wilton, and Westport all kind of come at it from a different, right? Town specific, right? Like they take their local conditions and their local issues into consideration so they're all kind of different. I kind of think the Westport, Greenwich, and Wilton are the most fine differences, but like what they're getting at and what the issue they're addressing are different. And so I think those are the ones that I thought, and I think we've, as a town, have to think about why we're doing it and what issue we're addressing as a town. And I have my own personal issues, but I don't want to project my own personal issues on what I think is important about it. But I think Wilton's issues, right, that Steve, you and I talked about, are different than why Westport is addressing ADUs. So I think as a town, we need to think about why we think addressing ADUs is important. And what we're looking at is about homeowners being upside down, or families with divorce, in-laws, elderly parents, divorced families wanting to have parents and family members close by, or is it about giving opportunities in smaller, more affordable spaces to people? Like, right, there's different issues of why you want ADUs. So I think we have to think about, and I think those towns, you can look at them and it's clear what they're addressing, I think. But so let's figure out what our town is looking for and needs.
Yeah. Okay. Have a committee report, review proposed legislation. We kind of talked about that in the fall. You have anything to add for that? No? Okay. Any other business, 2/3 vote of commission? I say no, we're not gonna take a vote, so no more add to the agenda. Next upcoming meeting is next Wednesday, next Tuesday, March 2nd, and then March 9th or the 16th?
I think it's 16th.
Okay.
So it's gonna be the 2nd, which is next week, will be the continuation of BMW and the continuation of 8 Nickerson, which we heard tonight. We'll try to get a couple draft resolutions, a couple sets of minutes on the agenda, general meeting, and
they get a week off.
Then get a week off.
All right, great. With that said, I take a motion to close. And I apologize for Larry Warbles first, Jim Rand second. All right, all those in favor? Eyeball. Thank you, Jennifer. Happy birthday to Jennifer's daughter.
Oh yes, happy